and heightening fears of catastrophe in a country haunted by the Chernobyl disaster.
On Thursday, the plant was cut off from the grid for the first time after fires damaged a transmission line, according to Ukraine's nuclear power operator. The damaged line apparently carried outgoing electricity and thus the region lost power, according to Yevgeny Baletsky, the Russia-installed governor. As a result of the damage, the 2 reactors still in use went offline, he said, but one was quickly restored, as was electricity to the area. Harry Michaels reporting.
Flooding in Afghanistan this month killed more than 180 people, the Taliban said on Thursday, appealing to the international community for help.
Mujahid said 182 people had been killed by floods this month and 250 injured. More than 3,100 houses had been completely destroyed and thousands of livestock killed. Afghanistan has been reeling from natural disasters this year, including a drought and an earthquake that killed more than 1,000 people in June. The nation has been largely cut off from the international financial system since the Taliban took over a year ago. Davis Richards reporting.
A Russian missile strike killed at least 22 people and wounded 50 others at a railway station in central Ukraine as the country marked Independence Day, according to Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky.
Wednesday's attack took place as Ukrainians marked the 31st anniversary of Ukraine's independence from the Soviet Union and the 6-month anniversary of Russia's invasion.
Israeli Prime Minister urged the United States and the European Union to scrap their pending nuclear agreement with Iran, calling it a bad deal for the world and a violation of standards set by President Joe Biden.
Israel is not against any agreement. We are against this agreement because it is a bad one, because it cannot be accepted as it is written right now, Lapid told foreign correspondents in Jerusalem. In our eyes, it does not meet the standards set by President Biden himself, preventing Iran from becoming a nuclear state. Roger Cantor reporting.
This is the latest news headlines. The Justice Department released a secret memo explaining the legal reasoning behind not charging then-President Donald Trump with obstruction of justice in an investigation into alleged Russian interference in the 2016 election. Mueller's probe, they said, did not establish any underlying crime related to Russian interference and did not make it clear that Trump sought to cover up any wrongdoing. Uvalde school board officials unanimously voted Wednesday to fire Pete Arredondo, the school district's police chief, exactly 3 months after the school shooting that killed 19 students and 2 teachers. The termination is effective immediately. Arredondo was not in attendance at his termination hearing out of concerns over his safety, his attorney George Hyde said in a 17-page statement released shortly before the community gathered Wednesday evening. A jury awarded Vanessa Bryant $16 million in her invasion of privacy trial against Los Angeles County over photos taken at the scene of a 2020 helicopter crash that killed her husband, basketball star Kobe Bryant, and her 13-year-old daughter. The jury also awarded $15 million to Chris Chester, an Orange County financial advisor, who had sued the county over photos taken of his wife and daughter who were also killed in the same crash. A California state judge said he would likely deny Tesla Incorporated's bid to dismiss a lawsuit by the state's civil rights agency accusing the electric car maker of widespread race discrimination at an assembly plant. California Superior Court Judge Avelio Grillo in Oakland, in a tentative written order, rejected Tesla's claim that the lawsuit would be unmanageable because it involves thousands of employees and that the state civil rights department failed to notify the company of all the claims before it sued in February. And that's the latest news headline.
So you want to go green? How about going green with your greenbacks? Try aspiration.com. Shares your values on the environment and climate change. Ever wonder what the big banks do with your deposits? Well, it goes to fossil fuel companies for sure. Not at aspiration.com. Your deposits will never fund fossil fuel projects like pipelines, oil rigs, and coal mines. With aspiration.com, you get 55,000 free in-network ATMs, 3 to 5% cash back on conscientious coalition purchases, personal impact score to help you shop to match your values, and an option to plant a tree with every roundup. Deposits in your Aspiration Spend and Save account are FDIC insured up to $2.46 million per deposit rate being swept to FDIC member institutions. To find out more, you can go to aspiration.com/revolution.
Are you living with pain? I was, after a nasty fall. I got relief with 1 Hour Pain Relief. I'm Barry Yarkoni, president, and here's Lisa, a Marine who was injured in Iraq.
After surviving an explosion, I was on horrible painkillers for lingering head, shoulder, back, and knee pain, but I hated the dangers and side effects. My friend told me about 1 Hour Pain Relief, and now I'm off the drugs.
1 Hour Pain Relief is the result of 15 years of research on an amazing extract from hops, the plant used to flavor beer.
Whether your pain is from an injury or just aging, you get safe, all-day relief in less than 1 hour.
We're so sure you'll love 1 Hour Pain Relief too that we'll send you a 1-week trial for just a small shipping charge. Call 800-269-9500 right now. That's 800-269-9500. There's no gimmicks, no obligation, no automatic shipments. Stop living with pain. Call 800-269-9500 for your 1-week trial or visit onehourpainrelief.com. That's 800-269-9500.
This is the Jeff Santos Show on the Revolution Radio Network. Rebuilding America, together, investing, activism, and supporting the middle class. Now, here's Jeff.
Thank you, Freddie, and good afternoon, Americans, and welcome to the Jeff Santos Show. It's great to be with you on this Friday edition of the program. We are rocking and rolling into the weekend, folks, and looking forward to it. We got a great lineup today. A little bit of politics, a little bit of sports, a little bit of music on this Friday edition of the Jeff Santos Show. We'll start it off with a newbie. He is going to be a regular on this Friday edition. Professor Mr. Shelton will be with us. John Shelton, Associate Professor, University of Wisconsin, Green Bay, on the issue of democracy, which is, frankly, maybe the most important issue of the day. Of course, he's also the Vice President of the American Federation of Teachers, Wisconsin. We'll get a lot of information from him on what unions are facing and so forth and so on today. We'll play some sound bites, and Boca Raton, if you can get ready, the sound bites from Sean O'Brien and Bernie Sanders. We'll have to play that today as well for most of our guests. And, frankly, it's going to be a real pleasure to have on Mr. Shelton, Professor Shelton, and we'll look forward to that. We'll follow with another University of Wisconsin, Green Bay. They know each other pretty well. Harvey K., who introduced me to Mr. Shelton many months ago. And, of course, he is Professor Emeritus at the University of Green Bay, University of Wisconsin, Green Bay. And, of course, at the same time, he is the great author of FDR books, as well as Thomas Paine and many others. And, of course, he is, along with good friend Mr. Minsky, involved in the scenario of the Economic Bill of Rights for the FDR 1944 Economic Bill of Rights. So this is a 21st century version, of course. We'll talk to Harvey K. at 4:06 Eastern Time. Coming up at 5 o'clock, we'll talk a little bit more history, but this time baseball. The great Galen White will join us. We'll talk about Singles and Smiles, the life of Artie Wilson, who desegregated minor league baseball. Artie Wilson did that in the same window as Jackie Robinson, and played for many, many, many years in the minor league system. Also, we are going to speak with Galen about, the analytics and too much of it, how much the game has changed. He actually worked for Kodak for many years and looks at the 1980s, the world of buyouts and greed. You remember the Wall Street movie with Michael Douglas, Greed is Good. He saw it firsthand, and he also compares to what is happening in baseball now, the Wall Street perspective of baseball. The rich get richer and the poor get poorer. That's why you're seeing the Yankees and the Dodgers and the Mets amongst the top teams to win the World Series this year. and not the Minnesota Twins or the Kansas City Royals or some of the smaller markets in the country. Some do well. Some are managed better than others, but it's still the case. So we'll get into that with Galen White coming up at 5:06. We'll wrap it up with MTC, Mark Taylor Canfield, who, of course, is the great Renaissance man of the Jeff Santos Show, a musician, an activist, and, of course, the executive director of Democracy Watch News. So we have a little sports, a little music, a little politics. It's the Jeff Santos Show. Where else are you going to find that on Friday afternoons? The phone number to join us, 833-545-5333 or 833-545-Jeff with a J, of course. No golfs allowed. Before I get into my commentary, you can also post on Facebook and Twitter at Jeff Santos Show. And we are going to be off next week. So this is our last show until Labor Day. We look forward to being on Labor Day. If there is some scenario where we have to be off on Labor Day because yours truly needs to be at a certain locale and can't do the show from there, we'll obviously post that on Facebook and Twitter and on the website itself if that's indeed the case. And then we'll come back on Tuesday, the Tuesday after Labor Day, of course. You know, what's interesting is that for many years, and many of you who are, say, between the ages of 30, 35, and probably 80, you remember going to school and the 2 days after Labor Day. So you would start on Wednesday, and, you know, sometimes it was a half a day, and then Thursday would be the first full day. Well, now a lot of the schools here in Massachusetts, we are on the South Coast, they're starting actually on Monday in August. Now, that's not abnormal because a lot of communities, particularly the southern communities, now, I presume that places in Florida all have air conditioning for their students. I guess I shouldn't always be assuming that. You know the line, when you assume, you make a right? So I know for a fact that in the Northeast, and we just had this case in Ohio, where I believe they also have opened up in the last couple of weeks, they don't have air conditioning. And try learning a lesson. And I remember this when I went to university at Northeastern. And they have at Northeastern, the 5-year school, and you go to school in the summer semester, or quarters in the case of Northeastern. And some of the older buildings in the summertime didn't have any air conditioning. Now, what eventually would happen is they would, in the middle of the quarter, you would move because you started in June, it wasn't too bad. But by August, it was outrageous. So what ends up happening is you have to move to another classroom which has air conditioning. That's at the university level. Think about it at an elementary school level where you're shoving 40 kids into a classroom. Thinking about, you know, it's one thing to deal with 22-year-old men and women. What about, or 20-year-old, or 19-year-old? What about dealing with 8 and 9-year-olds? Trying to shepherd them back and forth. And that is why I'm going to spend a little time in this commentary about how we treat the public. We've talked endlessly. We're going to have him on. He's actually on vacation right now. Donald Cohen, the privatization of everything. But look at it this way, folks. If we can't get basic fundamental steps of a democracy, provide clean air and clean water, provide the issues that we talk about on this show all the time, voting rights. If you can't vote for the politicians, the political figures, the public servants, the candidates running, then you don't have a democracy. If you can't educate the future, the democracy dries up because only the elite get educated. Now, you can do that in an agrarian society. You know, when you're talking about everybody's on the farm, you may not have a need for people to have a 4-year college degree. We have learned since the late 1940s, the advent of the GI Bill, where a lot of World War II veterans would go back to school, get a degree, and run a lot of companies. Those of you who are fans, and I was a huge one, of Mad Men, there were a number of individuals who would fight in World War II in that fictional show and then would go on to great success in the advertising firms and other things and so on and so forth. And when people talk about the greatest generation, they were talking about people who came back from World War II and started businesses that flourished. Some became millionaires. Some became billionaires. Yeah. Now, we talked yesterday with Andrew Perez of The Lever, levernews.com. Check it out. It's a great article about this guy, Barry Seid. I think it's spelled S-I-E-B, though. And, you know, he fits in, if he's 90 years old, right at the edge of the greatest generation, the Korean War vet, silent generation type. So not everyone is a hero. And again, Seid is giving a bunch of money to a Trump ally. I call him Lex Luthor. It's Lucas Leo, I think is his name. And frankly, we need to look back and we need to create another greatest generation. And it may very well be a lot different because of the situation that we're in. We're going to need people to go into education, as we talked with Melissa Thomason earlier this year. We don't have enough teachers. We don't have enough nurses. I just came from my dad's nursing facility. The CNAs, not enough staff. So we have been sponsored here locally by the Massachusetts Nurses Association, nationally by the National Nurses United, nationally by the NEA and the AFT, and locally by the Mass Teachers Association, a division of the NEA. So we got both local and national, because these are, in my opinion, the most important professions in the country. Yeah, you can say doctors and lawyers also have an incredible role in a democracy. But if you can't take care of the people, if you can't educate the future, again, what kind of society do you have? So what is at stake here, in my view, is that there is a real need to figure out what is important for young people, 25 years of age, 21 years of age. Where do we want to push them? Toward what careers? A good friend, Herb Boyd, talked about over the last few weeks, not enough people are concerned about civil rights, voting rights, and his community. They're concerned about making money. Understood. It's been a very difficult time for those coming out of the pandemic who graduated in 20 and 21 from a 4-year college. You know, a lot of people in the African American community see the stars, quarterbacks and the basketball players and musicians, business people, and they say, I want to be like him. I want to be like her. Not everybody can be in that. Not everybody can be on NBA players, only 12 per team. 12 players per team. So, and it's not just African Americans, it's Latinos, it's white people. I mean, everybody looks at it and say, how do I make it? Everybody at 25 years of age thinks they're going to be a millionaire, right? Or they're going to be the most famous, successful person. I had that. Everybody wants that. 21, 25, whatever. But at some point, we need to start shuffling at a younger age people into certain professions that will make the country a better place. Doctors, lawyers, high-paid professions, nurses and teachers less so, will bring up the salaries of the nurses and teachers. Give them the opportunity to succeed. Don't put obstacles of, testing for SATs, 80% of the time, as it was in a case, an interview I did in New Mexico several years ago. 70% of the time, what else are you going to give? What else is left time-wise? So these are all things that are important, folks. And as we look at what is happening now, the frustration, we'll talk about this with Harvey Kay and John Shelton and a lot of other callers to the show. I am with Biden. Again, I've had constructive criticism of him. If you've been watching and listening to this show, going back to January of 2021, I think he could do more. I still think he could do more on the student loans. I still think he could do more on free public university, or at least go to community college, which he campaigned on, and have first 2 years and then build it from there. But he's doing the right thing. And people like Ron Klain are doing the right thing and working with our friend Senator Sanders, Alex Lawson, all of these progressives. So you're not going to spend time on this show bashing Biden. And I'll tell you why. Because he has bought into what Klain, a good friend of his, is doing, and understands what is at stake. And what is at stake is our democracy. So we need to go forward. We're not going to go back to the Clintonista crowd and Larry Summers is out there piping about, this is going to raise inflation and we're going to have a recession and all this other nonsense. Garbage with a capital G. That's what I think of you, Mr. Summers. And a lot of the people that are even in the White House. Again, we've mentioned this before. We talked to our good friend, Mr. Insider, Bob Cusack of The Hill. You got Klain as the chief of staff, and you got deputy chief of staff, Bruce Reed. Reed, Alex Lawson would say this, is the guy who is anti-union, who is not a progressive, closer to the Republican Party, and that DLC crowd that operated in the 1980s, and he's in the next office to Klain. So, Biden has this idea that he can bring everybody together. Well, we've seen what that has happened with Manchin. Now, yeah, he got the deal with the IRA deal. Again, not the best name in the world. I was talking to somebody yesterday, and I said, really? Everybody's around the room. What are we going to call this? We got to have the word I in there. So we got to call it after Jerry Adams and the Irish Republican Army, or a retirement account. Hey, they got it done. That's a good step. With some good things in there on taxes, on Green New Deal, or environmental concerns, obviously prescription drugs, but nowhere near far enough. But again, we got a working relationship. We got to push more. That's what Larry Cohen said yesterday, CWA. Well, look, I think, and we'll get into this, Democrats, progressives, those who are concerned about this country and the party, got to keep pushing on Biden to stay the course with his reliance on progressives. You got to bring them out more. I got to see more of Bernie, AOC, and the squad and other people in a joint with our friends in the cabinet and the Biden administration. Bring them into the White House. You cannot be afraid of showing these people. Now, maybe you put them in different places. Again, I mentioned with the AOC, maybe she doesn't fly in Ohio or Michigan, but she would in Arizona or the great state of Nevada. They already have a Bernie crowd that operates the party in Nevada. Arizona, a lot of Latinos. So you can do that. Sherrod Brown should be in Ohio and Michigan and Wisconsin all the time. He's a progressive. A lot of people think he's not progressive enough. Okay. Been great to me. He comes on the show. I'll try to get him on in the next month. I'm a progressive. He understands what needs to be done. I don't agree with him on everything. But, he gets it. So bring him into the Midwest. You've got a lot of different resources, but it's time for Biden and Klain to utilize them. And maybe they will. They started this tour yesterday at the marching band there in Rockville, Maryland. That song from REM, Don't Go Back to Rockville. They were thinking of Maryland. I think there's one in Georgia or someplace. Anyways, so there we are, folks. Lots to talk about. 833-545-JEFF with a J. 833-545-5333. Well, let's go to John in Minneapolis. Let's see what he has to say. John, you are first this hour. How are you, sir?
I'm fine. How are you?
Doing okay, man. What's on your mind?
Well, there's a whole generation of people who benefited off of, if not free education, very low-cost education, and literally moved up the ladder. My father-in-law was a good example of that, and was able to go from being a poor kid from Indianapolis. His father had died when he was quite young. To being a college professor. So, it is supporting education, is something that benefits the entire society. It didn't just benefit him, it also benefited, the entire country by, allowing people to do that, and he wouldn't probably been able to do that if he didn't get that kind of support, to go through with all of that. And he went from high school and then went into college and then all the way through to a PhD, and that was because of the GI Bill. So, every country benefits in the Western civilized world, industrialized world, all the wealthy countries. They not only, give people money to go to college, they actually pay their living expenses. This has been done in many countries. If you could, make the grade, they supported you. You were a student. That was your full-time job. And these are countries that are not as wealthy as the United States. So we should be able to do that. It benefits the entire society, to educate people and to train them and support them, and to make them, it's like debt peonage in terms of what people end up owing when they go to college. In many professions, like, say, for instance, educators. I was just listening to a report this morning from the Debt Collective. I think it's the Intercept sponsored this. And they apparently, there was one person who went from, being an ordinary person from a working class background. She became a teacher, then went on to get her PhD. And when she was finished,
Right.
she had about $200,000 worth of debt. And she went.
Well,
she
yeah, I
wanted
mean,
to go into
that's the
education. She
situation
said
that
she
we
could
see
go
so
into
often
anything,
today, John. I think what we have, unfortunately,
yeah.
let me just say this.
Yeah.
I think I understand where you're coming from. I didn't see the report this morning, but I can tell you that, for so many people who are trying to get out, they're only dependent on student loans. You just can't borrow the money from a family friend or from a family member or whatever the case may be. So
No,
you got to do that, and we need to be able to cut that off.
Yeah.
And that to me is
Right.
critical. That's
And
why
to
I'm
have-
calling for more
yeah.
of what Biden is doing, not less, and not this
Right.
ruse
Right.
that the Summers of the
Right.
world and those garbage guys are telling people, oh, you can't do this, it's going to cause inflation. So you cut people off. And then these folks that basically are concerned that, oh, well, what happened 35, 40 years ago when people, well, first of all, it wasn't as expensive as it is to go to school now. And, and I'm sorry. I mean, I would have liked to have got some help too, but it didn't happen. And the fact is, my student loans are not going to be as much as some of these folks of the last 15, 20 years. So it's a much different story. And thankfully, you can figure out, ways to help people. I mean, those checks with the American Rescue Plan helped a lot of people. You can do a lot of things if you believe in what progressive politics Biden has done as well. So,
this is direct help to people, and as opposed to corporations. I mean,
Amen to that.
was all about bailing out the banks,
exactly,
as if they really needed to be bailed out. And then what did they do with
the
money?
The poor banks, exactly.
Really.
Oh, John, we got to run, my friend.
And bonuses. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, no doubt. We'll talk to you later in the broadcast, my friend. Thank you, John. There in Minnesota. We'll be right back. We'll get to Tom in L.A. when we talk to our next guest, John Shelton, Professor UWGB. After this, time out.
Santos Show is brought to you by Mass Peace Action. With over 9,000 supporters in the state, MPA uses the power of grassroots organizing to end war, create a more just foreign policy, and cut wasteful Pentagon spending to support the needs of the American people, like healthcare, education, infrastructure, and the environment. 20 years of war is long enough. To become a member or learn more, visit masspeaceaction.org. Don't wish for peace, work for it.
You don't have to wait for amazing deals on a new floor. Get spring Black Friday deals right now at Lumber Liquidators Flooring. This week, save up to 35% on gorgeous hardwood and waterproof vinyl floors. Plus, we can arrange for installation by professional, independent contractors. And with special financing, you can get started today. These are the floors homes are built on. Lumber Liquidators Flooring.
Hi, I'm Karen, owner of Lone Star Transfer. If you are a timeshare owner, getting out is probably a top priority. And now that annual maintenance fees are coming due, this ongoing burden and expense is at the top of your list. Thankfully, we can help. Let us do for you what we have done for thousands of others across the country. Our process is done legally, ethically, and quickly. Lone Star Transfer has a 99% success rate and an A-plus rating with the Better Business Bureau. We are a family-owned business and will personally make sure your experience is a pleasant one. Don't let another day go by with maintenance fees taking your hard-earned money. Give us a call for a no-obligation consultation at 844-284-4863. That's 844-284-4863. Or online at LoneStarTransfer.com. That's LoneStarTransfer.com.
I'm Rich Rosario. 1 in 4 heart attack survivors will have another cardiovascular event. Award-winning author and American Heart Association volunteer Dr. Nisa Goldberg explains the hidden risks.
Many people don't realize that managing hidden risks like untreated high blood pressure, unhealthy eating habits, and poor medication adherence may reduce your risk for having another heart attack.
The American Heart Association's Secondary Heart Attack Prevention Initiative, sponsored by Bayer, reminds you to follow your doctor's recommendations to help reduce your risk factors.
Take your medication as prescribed. Certain medicines like aspirin can lower your risk of another cardiac event. Aspirin is not appropriate for everyone, so be sure to talk to your doctor before you begin an aspirin regimen. It's important to understand your medications and take them correctly. Manage risk factors like high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and diabetes. Quit smoking, eat healthier, and get active.
Learn more ways to thrive after a heart attack at heart.org/oneisenough.
Supporting the middle class. This is the Jeff Santos Show.
"33 minutes past the hour. It is the Jeff Santos Show that you are tuned into. Coming to you live from the South Coast here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Our next guest is the first time that he will be on with us on a regular basis on Fridays. We've had him on several times before, but it's going to be fantastic to be able to chat with somebody who's got a dual role and a very important one in the great state of Wisconsin, where he is the vice president of AFT Wisconsin, as well as a professor teaching a lot of young minds about the democracy in this country, which is, on on the edge of a cliff right now. And again, teaching history as a whole. He's a great friend of our great friend Harvey Kaye. He is a great friend of democracy, and he's Professor Shelton, and he joins us video-wise from the great state of Wisconsin. Great to have you back, John. Welcome to the FDR Friday edition of the Jeff Santos Show, and a real pleasure to have you on. Thank you for making the commitment.
Hey, thanks so much for having me, Jeff. And I guess now I'm officially the Flava Flav to Harvey's Chuck D. So
I like that. You got to wear the hat though that Flavor Flav did. So that's important. We got to get you.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that. And I'm going to invest in a big clock to wear around my neck too.
Yes, we got to get the clock. The clock is important. I don't know if you ever watched the MTV series they did with him when he would give out clocks to his dates. I think they had like a dating thing with him. Yeah, it's very, very funny.
I'm vaguely familiar with that. Probably didn't watch it enough.
All right. Yeah, no, it was good stuff for MTV after they actually played music for many, many years. Well, we get so much to talk about. And of course, democracy is your beat. It's your discussions. Frankly, we have so many scenarios that feed into that, and I guess we'll start off on the other side. You mentioned democracy and your role at UWGB, but you're also a union man. And, the role that you play as vice president AFT Wisconsin comes into play here because the education situation in this country right now for teachers is, to me, a real chaotic scenario. We talk on Tuesday. I think I mentioned last time you were on with our good friend from Badass Teachers, Melissa Tomlinson, AFT. One of these days, we'll have to bring you and her together. And, she's in New Jersey, which is a blue state. But yet, the right wing has basically inundated New Jersey with the whole transphobia nonsense. And I know that you've had that situation. You had the CRT as well, and all these things. And I'm thinking that we're going to have to deal with this issue, and again put it to rest, because this stuff like this will penetrate every state in the country. And they got nearby Rhode Island here because we see the ads in southeastern Massachusetts. They're talking about fixing our schools. The only thing we got to do is reading, writing, and arithmetic, right? It's that kind of nonsense. How do you look at it from your vantage point, teaching at the university, and of course being the vice president of AFT Wisconsin? How do we make this an issue that we're protecting people who, whether they're transgender, whether they're teachers who are teaching history about slavery in this country? Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, this is such an important topic, and I think the first thing to remember is all of these right-wing critiques, all of these right-wing attacks, they're all being done in bad faith, right? They're all being done in a way that are meant to drive a wedge between working people in this country, and that frankly are meant to undermine the very concept of democracy and democratic accountability, right? There's very much a concerted agenda here, and I mean, I'm sure some of your listeners saw that big New York Times Magazine piece, about how Republicans are increasingly saying we're not a democracy, we've never been a democracy, we're a republic, right? They're
nonsense, yeah.
Right. I mean, but they're doubling down on that, and there's becoming a huge narrative around this, right? And so it's important for us to remember that the very origins of public education in this country are connected to the idea of building democracy, right? And you hear all kinds of things to the contrary, right? That idea of like just teach reading, writing, and arithmetic, or prepare students to have jobs. One of the major innovations in this country that facilitated widespread democracy was the advent of the public education system in the 19th century. Which I'm not gonna sugarcoat things, right? I mean, when it was formed in the 19th century, it explicitly excluded, say, African Americans, but right. The principle was that you send kids to school, not just to learn how to read and write, although that's important, but to be citizens in a democracy, right? To be informed so that they can go and vote, to understand American history, and to think about American democracy as this living, breathing thing. And so when you talk about things like transgender rights, or confronting the history and the legacy of racism in the United States, it fits into that, right? I mean, what public education is about teaching people what it means to have a society and to have hard conversations about who's included and who should be included and who counts in our democracy. And those are the very conversations that the right wants to shut down, right? I mean, these are not good faith conversations. Maybe
No,
some
not at all.
Republican voters are taking it that way, but these politicians that are exploiting this, these are not good faith conversations. They're intentionally designed to drive a wedge between Americans so that we don't have a democracy.
No doubt, and we've had conversations on and off the air about the fact that there are ways to communicate to working class voters, and I'm going to just warn Josh here, if we can, in the next couple of minutes, I want to bring up that back and forth I had with Sean O'Brien of the Teamsters Union on Sunday. We had a great opportunity at the Jeff Santos show, John, to go up to Boston, about an hour south of Boston, where we live and where the show emanates from, and had a quick interview with Bernie Sanders, and then later with fellow union member Sean O'Brien. And I think that communication came out, and you'll hear it in the interview when we get it queued up. Josh, just let me know in my IFB when you have it ready to go. But to me, I feel there is a real need to distinguish, because there already are people, and you're hearing from them too, that, well, you're giving these student loans to the professional class, and you're giving, a middle finger to the working class. That's complete BS. But, if you don't communicate that well, I've been friends with John Kerry for 30 years, but when John Kerry talks, it's like senatorial speak. I voted for it before I voted against it. That's not going to fly when you're talking to somebody making $35,000 a year, doesn't have a college degree. And now on the other hand, and again, when we hear the O'Brien cut, and again, Josh, just let me know when we have it in my ear. Very good. That's the difference. And that's critical, because that will interrupt what we're hearing, John. And to me, that's important. All right, we got the thing going, but go ahead, make a comment, and then we'll play the Sean O'Brien cut.
Yeah, I mean, you think about something like the student loan forgiveness, right? And I mean, you have to put this, first of all, I want to, be clear. I support this. I think it's a great idea. My only criticism is that the Biden administration didn't forgive essentially all undergraduate student loans, and we can talk about that later. But the bigger point is, we've had 40, 50 years of class warfare from above against everybody who works for a living in this country, whether that's somebody who has a college degree or not. And so, what that means is that everybody's lives have become more precarious. Actually, a lot of people who have college degrees now don't have great jobs. Many of them work at Starbucks, and they're trying to unionize right now.
All right.
Actually,
there you go.
So what, the student loan thing, in my view, like, one of the problems is, it needs to be talked about in the framework of making everybody's lives better, whether they have college degrees or not, right? And so what we need to have things like, the explicit right to a job for everybody, with a union and with a minimum wage that actually is not just a minimum wage, but a living wage. And so one of the problems is that, and I get all the political realities of this, that Biden can't unilaterally raise the minimum wage and can't, unilaterally provide, major revisions to labor law. But without those things, a lot of people without college degrees are saying, hey, stuff is really precarious for us too. What are you doing for us, right? And in a time when we couldn't extend, say, the child tax credit, which was a game changer for everybody, it allows people, again, people in bad faith, to sometimes drive that wedge between working people who, some of them have college degrees.
You can't articulate it, what you're really doing, and that's the issue. All right, let's play the cut. This is Sean O'Brien last Sunday at Commons Park in Cambridge. And what I really want you to pay attention to, John, is the back and forth with a bus driver that interrupted our interview. Go right ahead, Josh.
There are some real good ones. I mean, Bernie Sanders does a great job, and we have a president of the United States that's not afraid to say union and call out Amazon.
Right.
And call out Amazon. And you've got some Norcross. He's been a phenomenal supporter of ours in New Jersey. So you got a lot of people. What's up, brother? How are you? I know, Murph. What's up? You're looking good. Hey, There's Danny Ristine. Where is he? That's Murph. Murph, let me see the guns. The best.
Showing his biceps.
Yep. See you, Murph.
We look forward to having you on the show, Sean. To do maybe a whole hour with us and take some calls. We have a lot of friends of ours in labor. In fact, we have listeners who.
Murph, 1 second. Take a walk.
Go right ahead. Okay.
Sorry.
Continuation with our good friend, the brand new head and a really amazing and passionate spokesperson for labor, and of course the head of the International Teamsters Union here on the Jeff Santos Show, Sean O'Brien. Just to wrap it up, do you feel that we need to act as a whole, as a movement, to bring together the progressive movement, bring together the civil rights movement, the labor movement, LGBTQ, the whole rainbow, as I talked about earlier. But we almost have to act over these next few months for November and then obviously the 24th.
We've got a short window to mesh all those causes together, right, under one blanket. Like, the good thing about the Teamsters Union, we've been fighting for equality for 120 years. We've been taking on the issues, and those issues are very important. Those issues are germane to the success of this country, and we're going to continue to do that. But I think if we can actually fold the social issues and with the progressive agenda, also with holding accountability to people that don't support the issues, I think we'll be very successful. Because the biggest social misjustice is people not being able to afford food, people not being able to afford to own a home, people not being able to afford opportunity to go to college. That's the biggest social injustice that's happening. All the rest we can fix at the same time.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, my friend. Look forward to seeing you on the show.
Look forward to seeing you, man. We're going to get you on.
We're going to have fun. We're going
to have definitely fun. Hey, that was the great Sean O'Brien, Teamsters, new president of Teamsters. John, you saw that. You heard what his concerns were as a fellow union member. You see that he's concerned about. We're all concerned about LGBT rights, civil rights, voting rights, women's rights, the whole thing, and of course labor. And that's great. But how he spoke with another human being, how he recognized his buddy, show me the guns. That's what I think is missing sometimes when you're trying to communicate a message. So, if Sean O'Brien is communicating with Sarah Nelson, who's there as well as Senator Sanders, now the progressive movement is expanding. Now you can talk to a lot of different people who maybe when Bernie Sanders started this, behind me is the Sanders 2016 campaign sign. Maybe they didn't have that. So I think we're moving forward. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree 100%. And before we get to the tone at which he was sort of addressing a fellow worker and friend, I just want to say that I fully endorse the way that he's talking about the connection between social and economic justice, because for too long we've done this thing on the left where we've said, okay, working people should vote for Democrats because their economic, we represent their economic interests, even if their social interests don't fully align. But see, Republicans have never bought into that dichotomy. What they've done is they've framed social issues in the context of economic issues, right? And they've said, it's welfare cheats, and I want to make sure I'm using air quotes there for people who are just listening. It's welfare cheats who are taking your good, hard-earned job, right? Or it's special privileges for gay people,
welfare
right?
queens.
Exactly. And so, what that's done is create a kind of seamless narrative for people who are turned off by, the political system that's not working for them. And what I really liked about what, our fellow brother in the Teamsters did there was, connecting those two things. So when you think about something like abortion access, this is an issue that, it's an issue for working class people. I mean, you think about how this takes away opportunities and the ability to have, economic, opportunity and economic security for working class women and more broadly working class families when they don't have reproductive rights. We should be talking about those things that way. Same thing with LGBTQ issues. Discrimination in the workplace is terrible for LGBTQ people. So talking about those things together and not allowing the right to divide us is really important. and being able to frame it in a way, narrative, in a way that gets working people to like understand without their eyes glazing over, because you're giving them a litany of
Right.
policy platforms, is so important. And one of the things that I deeply admire about my friend and your friend Harvey is that he understands that when the Democratic Party has been at its best in this country, it's when they've had an argument for history that their fellow Americans can understand, about the trajectory of democracy in this country, that allow people to be proud of the democratic advances in this country. And I can't say enough about Harvey's ability to have those kinds of conversations, and he's my role model. But no, I really do kind of feel a little like Flavor Flav, but like
we're gonna get you the clock. We're gonna get you the clock.
Yeah,
see if I have one around here, but
But in all seriousness, that's important, and not enough people on the Democratic side think about how to actually have conversations with people who work for a living.
Look, I mean, I look at this situation, and we're going to try to take a call from Tom in a second here if we can work it out, Josh. If not, no worries. We'll hopefully Tom will have a chance to chat with Harvey coming up at 4:00. But I must tell you that there is an opportunity here that again, it's nothing's going to happen overnight. I want people to think that, well, because Sean O'Brien is there and Bernie is there and Sarah Nelson and John Shelton and Harvey. It's going to take more than 5 or 6 people, but it's a start. And that goes really back to the whole thing with Joe Biden, is that he's bought into the progressive movement, that Klain has been able to elbow out Bruce Reed and the Clintonista crowd. And that to me is a sign of moving forward. Speaking of that, I want to go to Tom. I just got a couple of minutes, Tom. Because I want to get in a bunch of phone calls here. So let's go to Tom in Los Angeles. And I know you have a thought or a question for our good friend, John Shelton, and the great AFT Vice President of Wisconsin. Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, being a fellow Wisconsinite, first off, thank you, sir. I'm actually, I graduated from St. Norbert, so don't hold that against me. But what I wanted to say is that I think we need to change the definition of government, and we need to say the word government means we the people, because messaging is important, and that is what government is. It's supposed to be about we the people. It's very, very important. I think one of the things I saw about Sean O'Brien is the fact that he's authentic. He's authentic. Right. He's real. He's just a regular guy. And that's a great thing, and that's what we really need on the Democratic side. And we need to really just keep on pointing out policy issues that people, 70% of the country agree with. And we also have to get into this thing where we say, look, you want a class warfare? Fine, it's a class warfare between the billionaires and us. And I'll tell you what, my paycheck, even though I make good money, is still a lot closer to the homeless person on the street than my paycheck is to the billionaire or my net worth. And that's what we really have to think about, because you know what? A lot of us in the middle class could be homeless and on the street pretty damn easy. And the only other thing I want to say is that I think Joe Biden's doing an incredible job. I really do. And it's not FDR, unfortunately. Maybe we can keep pushing them in that FDR direction.
We're going to have to.
But I'm hoping that we just continue to push them and not demonize them, and that we continue to push in FDR direction. And I think we are doing that little by little. If we got money out of politics, that would help a ton.
Yes,
but we're not going to do that probably right now. So
Tom,
anyway, I just wanted to say that I think we're going there.
I think we are. Hey, feel better, man. I know you are recovering. All the best, and thank you, man. As always, you're spot on. John, go right ahead.
Yeah. Thanks, so thanks so much, Tom. And I'm really sorry you had to go to a private college instead of a public school. But again, we won't hold that against you. No, I agree with you. I mean, I think sometimes we lose a little bit of perspective. 10 years ago, the idea that we would be talking about forgiving any student loan debt was so radical that, I mean, could you imagine Barack Obama considering that? Like, I don't think I could.
Yeah.
And so I do think, like, we have moved in a particular direction in the Democratic Party. I think, but I also think it's fair, to point out that, what I'm seeing from a lot of my conservative friends, and I do have conservative friends on social media, is
I got about 30 seconds. I got John.
Got it.
Yeah, if you can.
Yep. Is that this is this sort of deeply unfair thing, right? That some people are getting money and other people aren't. If they're going to say that about you anyway, go big, right? Forgive all of it for everybody who has undergraduate debt, and truly make this a transformational presidency, a la Roosevelt.
John, I'm a big fan of yours, and I'm a big fan of somebody who introduced me to you. And since this is an FDR Friday, I wanted to bring in the guy that has taught me a lot about FDR as well. And he happens to be, the Chuck D to you, our good friend, Professor Harvey K, to welcome you officially to the FDR Fridays here on the Jeff Santos Show, Mr. K. Thank you.
What's
Who is this guy? Who is this redheaded character?
How's it going, man?
It's okay. As you know, the weather here is far superior to what it's been in the past.
Mm-hmm.
No, actually, it's very exciting, John. I'm glad you're now a regular Friday, man.
Happy to be
your
here.
opening act, Harvey.
My opening act. Maybe I'm just his closing act.
Yeah, you could do it that way too. Well, you guys are Bruce Springsteen and U2 to me, so it's great to have both of you on back to back, and it's
I call Springsteen.
Okay.
Who was the other one he just mentioned?
You could be Bono. He's
Me?
right there and behind me there, so he's how close he is to my heart, Harvey. We're going to be talking with Harvey coming up here, but one of the things that I think is so important, and we were addressing it, Harvey, earlier, is this concern about education and how we are treating it. And this to me is, we just got about 40 seconds here, so I'm just going to give it to you, John, and we'll talk on the other side, Harvey. This to me is going to be a massive issue, and I think people who are educators, whether they're teaching fifth graders or grad students, are important. John, your final thoughts. We'll talk to you in a couple of weeks, since we'll be off next week.
Yeah, 100%. The stakes of this election are going to have, at least in Wisconsin, a lot to do with the future of public education. Educators are going to organize, they're going to mobilize, we're going to win, we're going to defend democracy. Have a great show with Harvey.
Thank you, John. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you in a couple of weeks. You're getting the thumbs up from Chuck D there, and next time we'll have the clock. Thanks, John. Harvey, stay right there. We'll be right back. It's the Jeff Santos Show. Back in a flash.
The Jeff Santos Show is brought to you by Mass Peace Action. With over 9,000 supporters in the state, MPA uses the power of grassroots organizing to end war, create a more just foreign policy, and cut wasteful Pentagon spending to support the needs of the American people, like healthcare, education, infrastructure, and the environment. 20 years of war is long enough. To become a member or learn more, visit masspeaceaction.org. Don't wish for peace, work for it.
You don't have to wait for amazing deals on a new floor. Get spring Black Friday deals right now at Lumber Liquidators Flooring. This week, save up to 35% on gorgeous hardwood and waterproof vinyl floors. Plus, we can arrange for installation by professional independent contractors. And with special financing, you can get started today. These are the floors homes are built on. Lumber Liquidators Flooring.
I'm Rich Rosario. 1 in 4 heart attack survivors will have another cardiovascular event. Award-winning author and American Heart Association volunteer Dr. Nisa Goldberg explains the hidden risks.
Many people don't realize that managing hidden risks like untreated high blood pressure, unhealthy eating habits, and poor medication adherence may reduce your risk for having another heart attack.
The American Heart Association's Secondary Heart Attack Prevention Initiative, sponsored by Bayer, reminds you to follow your doctor's recommendations to help reduce your risk factors.
Take your medication as prescribed. Certain medicines like aspirin can lower your risk of another cardiac event. Aspirin is not appropriate for everyone, so be sure to talk to your doctor before you begin an aspirin regimen. It's important to understand your medications and take them correctly. Manage risk factors like high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and diabetes. Quit smoking, eat healthier, and get active.
Learn more ways to thrive after a heart attack at heart.org/oneisenough.
Israeli Prime Minister urged the United States and the European Union to scrap their pending nuclear agreement with Iran, calling it a bad deal for the world and a violation of standards set by President Joe Biden.
Israel is not against any agreement. We are against this agreement because it is a bad one, because it cannot be accepted as it is written right now, Lapid told foreign correspondents in Jerusalem. In our eyes, it does not meet the standards set by President Biden himself, preventing Iran from becoming a nuclear state. Roger Cantor reporting.
A Russian missile strike killed at least 22 people and wounded 50 others at a railway station in central Ukraine as the country marked Independence Day, according to Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky.
Wednesday's attack took place as Ukrainians marked the 31st anniversary of Ukraine's independence from the Soviet Union and the 6-month anniversary of Russia's invasion.
Flooding in Afghanistan this month killed more than 180 people, the Taliban said on Thursday, appealing to the international community for help.
Mujahid said 182 people had been killed by floods this month and 250 injured. More than 3,100 houses had been completely destroyed and thousands of livestock killed. Afghanistan has been reeling from natural disasters this year, including a drought and an earthquake that killed more than 1,000 people in June. The nation has been largely cut off from the international financial system since the Taliban took over a year ago. Davis Richards reporting.
The nuclear power plant in the middle of the fighting in Ukraine was temporarily cut off from the electric grid Thursday because of fire damage, causing a blackout in the region and heightening fears of catastrophe in a country haunted by the Chernobyl disaster.
On Thursday, the plant was cut off from the grid for the first time after fires damaged a transmission line, according to Ukraine's nuclear power operator. The damaged line apparently carried outgoing electricity and thus the region lost power, according to Yevgeny Balitsky, the Russia-installed governor. As a result of the damage, the 2 reactors still in use went offline, he said, but one was quickly restored, as was electricity to the area. Harry Michaels reporting.
This is the latest news headlines. A California state judge said he would likely deny Tesla Incorporated's bid to dismiss a lawsuit by the state's civil rights agency accusing the electric car maker of widespread race discrimination at an assembly plant. California Superior Court Judge Avelio Grillo in Oakland, in a tentative written order, rejected Tesla's claim that the lawsuit would be unmanageable because it involves thousands of employees and that the state civil rights department failed to notify the company of all the claims before it sued in February. A jury awarded Vanessa Bryant $16 million in her invasion of privacy trial against Los Angeles County over photos taken at the scene of a 2020 helicopter crash that killed her husband, basketball star Kobe Bryant, and her 13-year-old daughter. The jury also awarded $15 million to Chris Chester, an Orange County financial advisor, who had sued the county over photos taken of his wife and daughter who were also killed in the same crash. Uvalde school board officials unanimously voted Wednesday to fire Pete Arredondo, the school district's police chief, exactly 3 months after the school shooting that killed 19 students and 2 teachers. The termination is effective immediately. Arredondo was not in attendance at his termination hearing out of concerns over his safety, his attorney George Hyde said in a 17-page statement released shortly before the community gathered Wednesday evening. The Justice Department released a secret memo explaining the legal reasoning behind not charging then-President Donald Trump with obstruction of justice in an investigation into alleged Russian interference in the 2016 election. Mueller's probe, they said, did not establish any underlying crime related to Russian interference and did not make it clear that Trump sought to cover up any wrongdoing. And that's the latest news headline.
Are you living with pain? I was, after a nasty fall. I got relief with 1 hour pain relief. I'm Barry Yarkoni, president, and here's Lisa, a Marine who was injured in Iraq.
After surviving an explosion, I was on horrible painkillers for lingering head, shoulder, back, and knee pain, but I hated the dangers and side effects. My friend told me about 1 hour pain relief, and now I'm off the drugs.
1 hour pain relief is the result of 15 years of research on an amazing extract from hops, the plant used to flavor beer.
Whether your pain is from an injury or just aging, you get safe, all-day relief in less than 1 hour.
We're so sure you'll love 1 hour pain relief too that we'll send you a 1-week trial for just a small shipping charge. Call 800-269-9500 right now. That's 800-269-9500. There's no gimmicks, no obligation, no automatic shipments. Stop living with pain. Call 800-269-9500 for your 1-week trial or visit onehourpainrelief.com. That's 800-269-9500.
So you want to go green? How about going green with your greenbacks? Try aspiration.com. Shares your values on the environment and climate change. Ever wonder what the big banks do with your deposits? Well, it goes to fossil fuel companies for sure. Not at aspiration.com. Your deposits will never fund fossil fuel projects like pipelines, oil rigs, and coal mines. With aspiration.com, you get 55,000 free in-network ATMs, 3 to 5% cash back on conscientious coalition purchases, personal impact score to help you shop to match your values, and an option to plant a tree with every roundup. Deposits in your Aspiration Spend and Save account are FDIC insured up to $2.46 million per deposit by being swept to FDIC member institutions.
To find out more, you can go to aspiration.com/revolution.
Is the Jeff Santos Show on the Revolution Radio Network. Rebuilding America. Together. Investing, activism, and supporting the middle class. Now, here's Jeff.
It is hour 2 of the Jeff Santos Show, and welcome to it, folks. Coming to you live from the South Coast here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. We're going to be speaking with our good friend, Professor Harvey Kaye, momentarily. And folks, again, just a little FYI, we'll be off next week, starting on Monday, and look forward to coming back as soon as Labor Day. A big live event is our hope, but we'll see. Things can sometimes be last-second ads and so on, but we hope to be able to do that. We'll continue to update you on Facebook. Again, at Jeff Santos Show. And again, you can always watch Facebook at any time your leisure by going to the search bar, put in Jeff Santos Show, and there you go. You can watch the great guests that we have on our program, including the next one. It is, of course, you can also check us out on revolutionradionetwork.com and post on Twitter at Jeff Santos Show. He is indeed a great one. He is our friend. He's the professor emeritus at the University of Wisconsin, Green Bay. He's the author of many great books, including the one here over my right shoulder, the left, I guess, for the audience, and The Four Freedoms of FDR. He is also with our good friend Alan Minsky, Mondays at 5 p.m., 2 p.m. Pacific, the co-founder, author, sponsor of the Economic Bill of Rights, based off the 1944 EBOR, as the acronym that we hope will raise consciousness amongst political figures as well as the American public writ large. Harvey Kaye, welcome back, my friend. Thank you again for introducing me to your protege, as he would say, with the great Public Enemy. He's Flavor Flav with the big clock to your Chuck D. And I'm a big fan of both of them, actually. I actually interviewed Chuck D in 1992, way back when I was putting together a show called Born in the 60s, and Chuck D was that Born in the 60s. Hey, good to have you. Thanks again for introduction. We got an FDR. We got an FDR Friday now, full of your friends and mine.
Here's a story for you, as long as you were in a musical mode or music reference mode. So little did I know that back in 1960, the fall of 1967, my first semester as a freshman at Rutgers College, of Rutgers University, that I had met, didn't know this until just a few years ago, that I actually met Bruce Springsteen.
Wow.
Yeah, the way that worked was we had these freshman dorms at Rutgers, and the dorm would elect a council, an executive board of students, and the board would then arrange for parties and dances and those kinds of things. And I'll also add, which is kind of funny, is that even though the New Jersey drinking age was 21, you could drink on the campus, but you couldn't buy on the campus. The club had to buy for students to drink. Well, anyhow, so that's 1967, and I had no idea. All I knew was about 3 to 5 years ago, maybe just 4, maybe even just 3 years ago. I'm losing track of time on these more recent events. A fellow that I knew as a freshman, he was in the next door room from mine. Out of the blue, I get this email from this guy. And coincidentally, I'm up here in Green Bay. He was living in Wisconsin with his family. And he said he's an environmental consultant for the state, and he was going to be traveling around the state. Any chance we could get together for lunch? So he came up to Green Bay. We spent some time together, and all of a sudden he said, "Hey, by the way, did you know that?" Because he had been president of the student, the club from the dormitory. Said, "Did you know that first band we hired in the fall of '67 was actually the beginnings of Bruce Springsteen's career? That was him."
E Street Band.
I said, I can't even see who you're talking about in my head back in '67, but that's very exciting to know. And someday I will have the opportunity to drop that story on a radio show. So there you go. How's that? Okay.
Well, there you go. And there's a radio show to do it on. I love that. Hey, one of these days, we're going to have to try to figure out a way to get him on the show, because this is the second time in a row that we have had two people on. You're a good friend and mine, and we're going to try to get you on with him. Larry Cohen, chair of Bernie Sanders' 16 campaign. You see the sign behind it. And our regular on Thursday, chair of Our Revolution, is also knows Bruce Springsteen. And actually, he grew up in Philadelphia and spent some time with him. So, there's going to have to be some 6 degrees of separation. We got to get Bruce on. And, I know a comedian who knows another guy, and, so we'll figure this out. But I think that would be fantastic. Look,
and by the way,
Cohen was saying, if you want me to pick a guy in 2024, I'm for Springsteen in 2024. So I'm all for that. So,
by the way, you said over your left shoulder. You didn't. There's not one of my many books is over your left shoulder.
No, that's not true.
Anyone could see.
That's not true. I'm gonna do a faux pas on TV. I'm gonna make sure that you see it. Actually,
that's your right shoulder.
Yeah. Well, it's the left. But I said my right shoulder.
No, you said your left shoulder. Okay, very good. Because I was gonna hold this up.
All right, I'm not lying. You never accuse me of lying.
Okay, let me make sure. Open it up. Let me see if you actually read it.
I've read most of it.
The quiz will be held on Labor Day Monday.
Yes. You're going to give me a quiz. That's all I need. Well, I tell you, we're off on Monday, so I got a vacation for that. Hey, I want to tell you, and we're going to play some sound coming up in a few minutes. I had a great time on Sunday last week with Senator Sanders. I got a quick interview. You're going to laugh at this one. And then we had a chance to meet Sarah Nelson and talk to her a little bit off the air. I didn't get a chance, but we're trying to arrange it to get an interview with her again. She is a spitfire. I mean, as I was saying to a lot of people, when Alicia Keys, the great musician artist from New York, wrote the song "Girl on Fire," I thought it was about Nina Turner, but it's actually about Sarah Nelson. And
well, let's put
she was just. They're both great,
Let's
right?
put it this way: that would be a hell of a a hell of a good encounter on screen, the two of them, Nina and Sarah.
That's for sure. Well, anyways, it was great.
Yeah.
We're gonna play a cut from both Bernie coming up here in about a minute, Josh, and then also from Sean O'Brien, who I think you'll love too. One of the things that I think is important, Harvey, is that as you have talked about, endlessly, is that we need to be able to communicate to working class Americans, and the Democratic Party has abandoned a lot of them, right? And I think it is critically important that between now and November, that we are able to communicate as progressives, that we understand the plight of working class white, black, brown, Asian, women, men, straight, LGBTQ, the whole thing. But if we don't stand for the economic Bill of Rights that FDR talked about in 44, and you guys are doing, you and Alan, if we don't understand that economic concern of that person making $35K a year and then talk about that, then, we're really going to miss the boat, and therefore November could be a fiasco. So I'm going to play a couple of cuts here, one from Senator Sanders and then one from Sean O'Brien, but I want to get your thoughts first, if possible. You're going to show another book? Is that what you're doing?
Well, if we were going to go in that direction, I was going to point out that in 1944, when FDR proposed the original idea for an economic Bill of Rights, the way in which he ran the campaign that year depended greatly on the fact that both the American Federation of Labor, that is the trades unions, and the Congress of Industrial Organizations, the industrial unions, both of those federations heartily endorsed and organized significant campaigns among working people in favor of the Economic Bill of Rights. And what I was going to show you is there was this great little book this great book I found when I was working on the fight for the four freedoms, which actually contains all of the documents of the campaign launched by the CIO. They issued numerous pamphlets, organized rallies and events around the country. And so one could argue that the idea of an economic Bill of Rights, though proposed or articulated by Franklin Roosevelt, was very much an effort of organized labor at that time. The promise he made or the vision he offered became the cause of labor. And I think that as much as we need to see, first and foremost, labor dedicate itself to organizing the unorganized, it's also the case that they should offer a vision like the Economic Bill of Rights that might actually percolate up to the president, since you're a bit softer on Biden right now than I am, frankly. But I think the only way we are going to advance is basically, yes, to praise when called for, but actually to throw as often as we can into the public debate what we know working people want, and that is an economic Bill of Rights.
No doubt. And look, I know, as you know, because you've been part of it, I've been constructively criticizing Biden for, almost 2 years now. But at the same time, I see our friends Alex Lawson, Social Security Works, and I see other people who are working closely with Clean and others, to try to do the right thing, even though we don't get much more than a quarter of what we want, sometimes not even that. I think it's a step in the right direction. And I'm going to get into Larry Summers in a second and that Clinton Easter crowd, which is putting up roadblock after roadblock, and we'll get into that. But I want to play our good friend Senator Sanders.
I'll hold off. I will hold off till we get to that stuff.
Okay, I want to hear first. We're going to do back to back, Senator Sanders and then Sean O'Brien. Now let me just set this up for you. So Sanders was going from a private event to his speech at the Commons in Cambridge on Sunday of last week, and I had to literally run out of the building. The guard didn't want me because I was the only press guy there. That's corporate media; nobody was around, and he wouldn't let me go. So I ran out, and he was running down the street before to get in his car, and I caught up with him. So this is how it went. This is Senator Sanders. Then we'll come back with O'Brien.
Have a blast. Have a blast. Thanks.
Senator, your thoughts about how this and the Philadelphia event have really opened some eyes for a lot of young people?
Well, the goal is to make people understand that at a time when the working class is in decline, when we have more income and wealth inequality than at any time in 100 years, that the only way forward is for working people to stand up and fight back. And the most effective way to do that is to join unions. So we're seeing a rebirth of the trade union movement in this country. I was just at a picket line with Starbucks workers, Amazon workers, workers here at MIT, and all over the country. People are beginning to form unions. That's a great thing, and we're trying to do what we can to help that.
Do you think
that's about it? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator. Okay. Look to have it on my show sometime soon.
Okay. Thank you, Bernie. Okay.
That's one question. That's it. No more. It's a riot.
I see
He's
two people
on.
wearing a navy blue cap. What's actually on the cap?
That's a good question. I think it was a union, some kind of union representation.
Uh-huh.
I'm not positive about that. But yeah, he had a cap on, and he was. I don't know if that was the same photograph. He was there with Sarah Nelson, and they were talking before he went on. But he's a little bit curmudgeon, as you know. But we're glad that we got it, and hopefully we can get another one. But he set the stage, and to me, Harvey, because you've brought it up, and we brought it up with Larry Cohen, and we brought it up with our other friends in labor, including Sarah. But to me, it is important for Sanders to be credited with kind of laying the foundation of a renewal of the FDR agenda in 15 and 16. As you can see, I have the sign behind me. And I think that, that is why that I want to go somewhat, I want to call it easy, but I'm willing to sort of give him and a lot of his folks who are negotiating with the Biden administration. Again, not happy. Bernie wasn't happy on Sunday, and he complained about the fact that, this environmental deal is a disaster. That's why he was backing Tlaib at the squad, and she was not happy about it, and Larry Cohen was not happy about the whole thing. It's a giveaway to the oil companies. But I just think we need to do it. Now, here's somebody that I'm so excited to be on our side, and I want you to listen to how he communicates, because we've talked about this. How do you communicate with the guy, the gal, making $35K a year, the average American salary here in the United States in 2022? This is Sean O'Brien, the new Teamsters head. You can run that, Josh.
There are some real good ones. I mean, Bernie Sanders does a great job, and we have a president of the United States that's not afraid to say union and call out Amazon.
Right.
And call out Amazon. And you've got some Norcross. He's been a phenomenal supporter of ours in New Jersey. So you got a lot of people. What's up, brother? How are you? I know, Murph. What's up? You're looking good. Hey, there's Danny Ristine. Where is he? That's Murph. Murph, let me see the guns. The best.
Showing his biceps.
Yep. See you, Murph.
We look forward to having you on the show, Sean. To do maybe a whole hour with us and take some calls. We have a lot of friends of ours in labor. In fact, we have listeners who.
Murph, 1 second. Take a walk.
Go right ahead. Okay.
Sorry.
Continuation with our good friend, the brand new head and a really amazing and passionate spokesperson for labor, and of course the head of the International Teamsters Union here on the Jeff Santos Show, Sean O'Brien. Just to wrap it up, do you feel that we need to act as a whole, as a movement, to bring together the progressive movement, bring together the civil rights movement, the labor movement, LGBTQ, the whole rainbow, as I talked about earlier, but we gotta almost have to act over these next few months for November and then obviously the 24th.
We've got a short window to mesh all those causes together, right, under one blanket. Like, the good thing about the Teamsters Union, we've been fighting for equality for 120 years. We've been taking on the issues, and those issues are very important. Those issues are germane to the success of this country, and we're going to continue to do that. But I think if we can actually fold the social issues and with the progressive agenda, also with holding accountability to people that don't support the issues, I think we'll be very successful. Because the biggest social misjustice is people not being able to afford food, people not being able to afford to own a home, people not being able to afford opportunity to go to college. That's the biggest social injustice that's happening. All the rest we can fix at the same time.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, my friend. Look forward to seeing you on the show.
Look forward to seeing you, man. We're going to get you on.
We're going to have fun. We're going
to have definitely fun. Hey, that was the great Sean O'Brien, Teamsters Union president. And, one of the things that I really loved about that was his back and forth with the MBTA union bus driver, I believe a Teamsters Union. And that we got to have a lot more in the Democratic Party communication style. Hey, great guns. We're not referring to, of course, weapons. We're talking about his muscles, right? And to me, I just love that reality, and that is how you communicate. I mean, he literally stopped the interview, went over, spent about, 3-4 minutes, talked, came back, finished the interview up, and went on his way to talk to other people there at the event. And, that's how regular people do things. And I, because of the fact that we're so accustomed to the world of Washington, D.C., and my colleague from Arizona, I'll give you 5 minutes to discuss blah, blah, blah. And, it's John Kerry, again, friend, known him for years, been on the show. But, I voted for it before I voted against it. I mean, please. So give me your thoughts, Harvey, because you understand this. In fact, John Shelton, I played the same cut for him. And he says, yeah, Harvey is one of these guys that understands how to communicate, to the average worker. Mr. K, Professor K.
I just am myself.
You are.
I'm just myself. I don't, first of all, obviously I have a PhD. I was a professor for 43 years. I mean, I'm all the kinds of things, the elite intellectual type, supposedly. But I went to a university where middle and working class people went, at Rutgers. I've only gone to public higher education, whether it was here in this country or overseas. I came to a university where almost the majority of students every year in the course of the 43 years were first generation students, meaning their parents were, farmers or workers, and one just became attuned to speak as best one could, but not to dumb down, never to dumb down. And, I don't know. I mean, the best thing is you remain yourself. But the other thing is you got to learn how not to talk down. Okay.
Yes.
I will tell you that I've said this to you from the beginning. Your logo that is part of your introduction, I think we ought to change it from middle class to working class. I really do.
Actually, we are.
I
was thinking about that the other day, actually. And we're going to change a lot of things. This week is going to hopefully give us some time to put together some stuff for Labor Day and so forth. So actually, we'll step ahead of you on that. But no,
but the other thing too is. But let me say one other thing.
Just that back and forth, though, I think is important, though, Harvey. Don't you agree? I mean, when is the last time you heard that on a radio broadcast, right?
No, that's
internet,
all fair. But I think that's one thing between two guys who are already in the labor movement. The better question is, how did those of us, remember, I'm a labor unionist as well as having been a professor all these years. And the thing to remember is that we have to start, this is FDR. FDR, despite his very elite, very upper class upbringing, he always seemed to have a sense that the way he understood America is the way working people understood America.
Yeah.
Okay. There was a shared sense that there was an American promise, a promise that big business had destroyed, and by bringing on the Great Depression because of their accumulation of wealth and the denial of sharing that wealth to working people. I mean, he shared these kinds of understandings. Now, I don't know if we can always be guaranteed of that, but let's not forget, FDR's America was filled with immigrants. It wasn't like they were all sort of, here forever and ever generations.
No.
That
was
all those first generation Americans, and then
they're
their
all
kids
coming
were
over. The Irish,
generation.
the Italians, Jewish. Yep,
right.
No doubt.
And so I think the thing for us to remember is that we have to also start engaging their American imaginations and cultivate that. As I've said, take hold of our history. No doubt. We're talking Professor Harvey Kaye. We'll do it to the top of the hour. We'll take your phone calls next at 833-545-5333. Back after this timeout. You are watching and listening to the Jeff Santos Show. Back.
Haul packages for a living? A gas-powered Mercedes-Benz Sprinter delivers. Transport people? A Sprinter van with 0% financing is a 5-star idea. If food delivery is your thing, then a gas Sprinter caters to you. And if you're a general contractor, the Sprinter with 0% financing nails it. With innovation, safety, and technology, Sprinter is built for you. And it's built for your bottom line with 0% financing. The Mercedes-Benz Sprinter, starting at just $33,790.
The Jeff Santos Show is brought to you by Mass Peace Action. With over 9,000 supporters in the state, MPA uses the power of grassroots organizing to end war, create a more just foreign policy, and cut wasteful Pentagon spending to support the needs of the American people, like healthcare, education, infrastructure, and the environment. 20 years of war is long enough. To become a member or learn more, visit masspeaceaction.org. Don't wish for peace, work for it.
Hi, I'm Karen, owner of Lone Star Transfer. If you are a timeshare owner, getting out is probably a top priority. And now that annual maintenance fees are coming due, this ongoing burden and expense is at the top of your list. Thankfully, we can help. Let us do for you what we have done for thousands of others across the country. Our process is done legally, ethically, and quickly. Lone Star Transfer has a 99% success rate and an A-plus rating with the Better Business Bureau. We are a family-owned business and will personally make sure your experience is a pleasant one. Don't let another day go by with maintenance fees taking your hard-earned money. Give us a call for a no-obligation consultation at 844-284-4863. That's 844-284-4863. Or online at LoneStarTransfer.com. That's LoneStarTransfer.com.
Are you living with pain? I was, after a nasty fall. I got relief with 1-hour pain relief. I'm Barry Yarconi, president, and here's Lisa, a Marine who was injured in Iraq.
After surviving an explosion, I was on horrible painkillers for lingering head, shoulder, back, and knee pain. But I hated the dangers and side effects. My friend told me about 1-hour pain relief, and now I'm off the drugs.
1-hour pain relief is the result of 15 years of research on an amazing extract from hops, the plant used to flavor beer.
Whether your pain is from an injury or just aging, you get safe, all-day relief in less than 1 hour.
We're so sure you'll love 1-hour pain relief too that we'll send you a 1-week trial for just a small shipping charge. Call 800-269-9500 right now. That's 800-269-9500. There's no gimmicks, no obligation, no automatic shipments. Stop living with pain. Call 800-269-9500 for your 1-week trial or visit onehourpainrelief.com. That's 800-269-9500.
Supporting the middle class. This is the Jeff Santos Show.
33 minutes past the hour. It is the Jeff Santos Show that you are tuned into. Coming to you live from the South Coast here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Our good friend Harvey Kaye is with us to the top of the hour. I think he's looking for something on his computer screen. And
I
hopefully,
just lost the picture. Hold on.
Oh, okay. We can see you. You can't see us? No, we just, now you're frozen. Okay, I want to get a frozen Harvey K. Maybe that should be like a chocolate bar or something. A frozen Harvey K. Like a popsicle, something like that. And we're going to try to restore our good friend Harvey K. If you can tell me in my IFB what we have in terms of calls, I got my call screen down, Josh. So let me know on that if you can. All right, fantastic. We will go to Steve in a couple of seconds. There you are. You froze for a second.
I lost.
That's all right.
I don't know what happened.
We were joking that maybe we're going to name a chocolate, not a chocolate bar, but like a popsicle, the frozen Harvey K. I think that would be interesting. So, Harvey, you ready to take some phone calls?
Happily.
Very good. We're gonna take some phone calls. We're gonna go to a happy birthday. I don't think we have the ability to sing happy birthday, professionally. I myself am not going to do it, but we can wish him anyways. Our good friend Steven is turned 29 today. No, not really, but in his eyes and ears and thought processes. He's our great friend from East Bay, California, and he is celebrating a fantastic birthday. Happy birthday, Stephen.
Thank you, Jeff. What's happening, guys? What's happening?
You really want to know?
We are rocking in the free world, dude.
Yeah. I just want to, Carvey, or both, just a sidebar quick question. I was watching my Dodgers play the Brewers, and I really like the Brewers uniform. I'm not sure if it's their standard, but it looks very old school. Are you familiar with that, Jeff?
Is this the Go Brewers one? It's probably their third uniform, or the ones that were there in the 1970s and 80s when they were playing the Cardinals in the 81 World Series. I'm not sure which one you were seeing.
That was
I don't know.
The American
it's blue,
League.
And then they have the yellow. It says Milwaukee on it.
Just says Milwaukee on it.
That's cool.
Yeah, I think that was
a handsome uniform. It's a handsome uniform.
Yeah.
I
like.
So I've been. Go ahead, Jeff.
No. I like that combination, the gold and blue. Our friend Harvey K, of course, LSU has a little bit of that as well.
The Packers' original colors were gold and blue.
Is that right? I did not know that.
Nice. And when they had the throwback days these last several years, they played in gold and blue.
Interesting, like Notre Dame, actually.
Go Packers.
Yes.
No, better than
Go ahead,
not
Steve.
like
We
Notre
can
Dame,
talk about
not
this
like
all day
Notre
long.
Dame, like the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah. I knew that was going to take. It's going to take you only about 3 seconds to retort that. So you're not a big fan. Go right ahead, Stephen. We're taking away your time. Go ahead.
So No, that's fine. Listen, I always talk about down the road. What's going to happen to our movement down the road? What's our plan? And number two, Jerome Powell, an attack on workers. I mean, there's some simple things that people can do in government to really help people, and they're not doing it. I don't know how these corporate Democrats get elected. It's disgusting. They can make their millions.
Well, some of them don't.
Else,
they just become economists and then pundits on TV like Summers. And Powell's another one that never got elected either. I know, Harvey, you got a lot to say on this.
Joe Biden did not have to reappoint him. Joe Biden did not have to keep him on.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. Well, that's the pressure and why we need to keep it up, to protect Klain and so forth, because that's Bruce Reed. He sits in the next office, guys, to Ron Klain. And he's there doing the agenda of the Clinton crowd, doing the agenda of Summers, doing the agenda of Geithner, who served Obama for the first couple of years and served up a nice meatball to the 1%. And this is the stuff and the BS we got to deal with.
I want to say something very seriously about that. I want to say something seriously. Look, he not only made the remark, that certain sectors are going to experience pain. And what he meant by that is working people are going to experience pain. His buddies will not experience pain.
Exactly.
So that's first, okay? Number two, he actually had the audacity to recall the Volcker the Volcker plan, which began under one of the, to my mind, one of
Jimmy
the worst
Carter.
presidents the Democratic Party ever produced, and that's Jimmy Carter. Okay. Who appointed him and basically, fundamentally let Volcker loose on the rest of us. And then, of course, Reagan loved it and continued to pursue it. I mean, it's basically neoliberalism gone, was literally launched and gone berserk. Okay. And then now for a Fed chair, right, to start citing that as an example, as if that's the model. Come on. I mean, that's outrageous. In fact, I would like to hear Biden call him out on that. Okay. I hope to hear Bernie and everyone else call him out on that and say, what kind of stunt are you going to pull? Everyone celebrated the end of neoliberalism. Well, we're not at the end of neoliberalism. And that's what needs to be, if you like, our cause. Okay. Bring an end to neoliberalism.
Well, there needs to be full court press, as you well know, being a basketball fan, a fan of the Warriors, Stephen, that if we don't put a full court press, these guys will just eat up everything. I mean, the Clinton Easter crowd, they're tied into big donors. They're tied in with the Republican Party. There's this whole Bush-Clinton alliance that we've seen now. I mean, there is, they want everything, just like the Republicans, the 1%. And, they're willing to compromise, of course, because they don't have the same power and the same money, financial base that the far right does. But, that's why we need to keep on pushing down. And I don't know if you had a chance to hear the Sean O'Brien cuts over the last couple of days, Stephen, but that's the kind of pressure. I know you're a big fan of his, as much said so on this show, that's the kind of pressure we're going to need. Where people are actually talking, as Sarah Nelson was and Sean was, about a general strike. Now, there are specifics to that and so forth. It's not going to be everybody stop working, Monday at 2:00. But my opinion is that there are foundations being built. And I think that's why we need it, from my view anyways, Harvey may disagree, why we need to support, at times, like we have, the Biden administration on some of the IRA, stupid name, bill, and of course with yesterday or 2 days ago with his education bill. So, forgiveness of the student loans. Stephen?
Listen, last year I was talking about you got to call out people by name and you can't control the ego. You can have all the money in the world, but if you get called out, people don't like to be, singled out. And Manchin has a very thin skin. He was called out. So I think if I were running the strategy, I would get O'Brien, Sarah Nelson, the leader of the NAACP,
Johnson.
CP, sorry. And I would have them three demand a meeting with Biden. Each person has their expertise. They would bring out black rights, voting rights, and labor rights, and force Biden to say, why are you still keeping this gentleman on? Why haven't you done anything about the George Floyd Act? Why haven't you pushed for a minimum wage? We need this type of pressure. You can be respectful. Listen, we don't get a second chance in life. All these people don't have special wings. They're just people. And we need to not be afraid of hurting people's feelings. People are hurting in the streets, and poor people actually work harder than rich people. And all these people, from the majority of people that I know, they're not looking to be rich. They just want a decent life. Your father should not be struggling. We should not have a healthcare system that's about profit over people. Enough is enough. I mean, the only good news, and I'll end here, is that Nancy Pelosi's husband supposedly is going to go to jail for 3 days. I don't know. But with that, how can a person who is doing some shenanigans with Trump get 15 years and do 100 days? If I were to sell weed on the corner, I can do life. It's ridiculous. I'm out. That's it. Your thoughts?
Hey, man, have a great birthday, and you're spot on as usual, friend. Harvey?
Did you say maybe you can spend time in the freezer because you're thinking of Jenny's ice cream?
No, I'm thinking of the freezer that Miss Pelosi has. It costs about $15,000 or whatever.
Yeah, that's where
Jenny's
she
ice
went.
cream. You're right. No, I keep forgetting the name of the ice cream.
Let them eat ice cream. Let them eat ice cream. Right?
Let them eat ice cream. Let him eat cake and ice cream. It's a good combination,
what's
right?
really fascinating, what's really fascinating, a little bit of history would have been a powerful ingredient if Biden ever wanted to use them in his speeches, if he's going to talk about absolving student debt. And it's all so late. These people, you realize it took like 19 months to figure out that maybe $10,000 of absolution would work. Look, for the last 50 years, public commitment to higher education in all too many states has been reduced. When I came to Wisconsin in the late 70s, 1980, about then, there was an understanding that I had operated in the state for some time. It was called, don't laugh, the 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 rule. And what that meant was 1/3 of the cost of higher education for a student would be covered by tuition. 1/3 would be covered by tax dollars, and 1/3 would be covered by grants and gifts to the university. And my students, when I came here, rarely were taking student loans. They worked their asses off, excuse the expression. They actually worked, many of them were working full-time while they were full-time students. And I kept, they kept saying, only reason I'm falling asleep is I got to work in order to, and I said, yeah, but do me a favor, just go out and wash your face and come back a little more alert. The point is, though, that they weren't borrowing. And what I saw in the course of the next 40 years was ever increasing student debt on the part of my students, to the point where some of them were literally, like, to go to a public higher education institution, $50,000 in debt. Now that's bizarre. That's insane. Absolutely. Okay.
Oh, look, we were talking the other day with one of the guests, Harvey. I can't remember who it was. And it was Wendell Potter, the great whistleblower, right? And I said, if somebody from Denmark or Sweden landed in America and looked at the Medicare Advantage ads, with J.J. Walker and William Shatner and Joe Willie Namath, right? I mean, they would be appalled. Like, what the heck is this? And this is what you get in America. Thank you, capitalism, right? And this is the stuff that goes on. And, and how many Democratic candidates and how many Democratic members of Congress come out and push back on this? 4 or 5, Bernie, AOC, maybe somebody from the squad. I don't know, but not a lot. There's money going in the pocketbooks of a lot of Democrats and the entire Republican Party. I mean, that goes without saying, of course. So, yeah, I mean,
higher education debt and healthcare debt are killing people. In fact, a friend of mine I was on a show with the other day said, well, the only real the old thing, death and taxes, the only thing guaranteed are death and taxes. Well, the only way you're guaranteed not to have to try to pay off your entire student debt is by dying. It sticks with you, right? I mean, this is absurd. This is a country that claims to have, this major commitment to higher education. That no other country in the world had that kind of commitment. Yeah. Meanwhile, we're literally creating students who are living neo-feudal lives. It's capitalism, but they're living neo-feudal lives. It's like they're serfs to their debt. Debt bondage.
It's sad, and you just think about the fact that in Finland they actually pay people to go to university. I mean,
Well, when I was in Britain, when I was living in Britain, when I was a graduate student, and the fees for overseas students was very low because most of the overseas students had come from, the former British Empire, the Commonwealth. But what was interesting, students didn't pay any tuition when they went to higher education. They were given grants to go in Britain, and then because of the American example, under the Thatcher government and similar kinds of governments, they just jacked up tuition prices. All of a sudden, students were going to be given loans to go to higher education. I mean, so it's not only that we, what we've done to our own students, it's the model we presented to a comparable nation, the United Kingdom. It's just outrageous. No, I mean, they should have literally, he's going to be accused of a lot of stuff for having absolved students of $10,000, or for Pell Grant students, $20,000. But he should have gone much higher. There's no question, which is why I find it unforgivable. It took 19 months to come up with a $10,000 figure. just unforgivable. Okay, unforgivable that the Democratic Party
is why
couldn't discipline its members to create a $15 an hour minimum wage. You see what I mean? I'm angry. I'm just thinking about this. I've gotten angry again.
Well, here is another reason to be hangry and to be looking at where we can put some of the energy. Where the heck was a senator? And somebody besides Bernie. We just can't put it on Bernie's shoulders, for Christ's sakes.
Yes.
Where's the senator? Where's the member of Congress doing one of those all-night speeches or primetime speeches that are on C-SPAN and going after Biden and saying, look, we got this opportunity. To quote our good friend Stephen, we only come around here once. Only come around to have the majority in the House and Senate and the White House every few years, every couple of decades. And, why don't we go for it? And that to me is the unfortunate part, is nobody ever did that, because then it doesn't become about, let's just try to get some crumbs from Biden. It means that Senator Sherrod Brown, Elizabeth Warren,
thank you, yes,
whatever, are out there. And now we're saying, this is what we have to do, guys. Let's not go behind closed doors and say, hey, you got to do this. You got to get out there. Because now you got the right wing, saying that this is a problem. The people who didn't have, student forgiveness 40 years ago, we're going to say it about them. So you get that BS. And then you got the other crowd with, Mr. Summers and company say, oh, it's going to carry inflation and stuff like that. It's all BS. And, it frustrates me because that's why we have to back Biden and clean, and at the same time call out these guys. And somebody should get to clean and say, look, you have to get Biden to come out and discredit these folks. And that needs to be done, relatively soon here, because he's going to say, look, this is my watch. This is not Bill Clinton. This is not anybody else. And that's why actually I think he'd be better off for his career, his legacy, to be a one-term president, because then he can say, look, I don't have to go and campaign and pay all the, the bless myself in front of and kiss the feet of Bill Clinton or anybody else. And then he can just do his own thing. And I think he would be better for it. The country would be better for it. And he could open the door to the next president, which I would hope would be a progressive, but who knows? But
who knows?
Right. That's how I feel. I want to take a call from John in Minneapolis, but go ahead. Do you have a comment or thought?
Yeah, no, and I apologize. My younger daughter who went to Harvard College and Harvard Law School, was just calling for a FaceTime, and I had to text her quickly to tell her, call
on the
Mom,
air, for crying out loud. What's her first name?
Right. Fiona.
Come on. Give us about 10 minutes.
She's an assistant attorney general of the state of New York.
We'll call her General then. General Fiona.
She heads the labor bureau.
About 10 minutes. Yes.
There you go.
And then you can talk to your dad.
Bring on.
All right.
Bring on.
Let's bring on John from Minnesota, who, by the way, is originally from New York. So, there's a little bit of New Jersey, New York situation.
Right.
John, you are next with RVK here on the Jeff Santos Show. Go right ahead. Are you there, John?
I'm sorry. I keep forgetting to unmute myself. I'm sorry.
All right, there you go.
It really amazes. Yes. It really amazes me that Roosevelt was so interested. Coming from such a wealthy background, that he was so concerned about working people. I don't think you see that too much anymore. At least I don't, of any person from what would be considered, I guess, our upper class. And we do have an upper class. We have an aristocratic class now. And yeah, it's debt peonage. They're managing to do the same thing that brought literally millions of people. I think that the settlement of this area and a lot of the Midwest coming from Central Europe was because people were constantly in debt. I mean, there's just such interesting stories of how people literally, died working to try to pay off debt to the aristocracy. And here we're at it again. This should not be in a democracy. We need to become more democratic, and we need to change this situation. It's inhumane. And what's interesting about it, too, is that you look at healthcare and you look at education, they're supposed to be the humane arts. Well, it's hardly very humane if you're going to make people pay what would be the equivalent of a house payment for the rest of their lives. And of course, then what is good is their education, even if they move up the ladder. I don't think that was the situation for my own parents, my in-laws, and myself. I paid off my student loan. One loan I had, I think it was $2,000 in a year. That's what I owed, my entire amount. And my wife, she was fortunate her parents paid for it, but her own father enjoyed the GI Bill, or he would still be working in a factory that probably would have closed years ago in Indianapolis. But he was able to take advantage of that and continuing in his education all the way up to a PhD level. So this is how you create, democracy. This is what democracy is. And we were the strongest democracy in the world at the end of World War II. And here we are. We've walked back from that so far. I don't know if we'll ever catch up to doing what was done by unionization and by the Democratic Party through unions and progressive movements and people like FDR. Do you foresee a person winning in this country who is like Franklin Delano Roosevelt? I still have so much respect for him growing up, especially on Long Island, when you saw just the, even, in the 50s and 60s and 70s and the 40s, I mean, there was such a separation of wealth between those people who lived on the North Shore of Long Island and Southampton and had their, Park Avenue apartments,
for sure.
And then their
There's no doubt.
summer homes, which were
Let me hold you there, John,
and
because
like
I want to
this.
get Harvey and
why should we go?
I appreciate it.
Yeah. Why should we go back to that? It's just ridiculous. It's absolutely absurd. Anyway, that's all.
Thank you, John. No, I hear you, and I hear your passion. You're spot on. Look, I think it's important, Harvey, for what John is saying. I mean, again, we're not creating FDR Jr. Some of his sons and, the nephews have run for office, and they don't have the same magic, right? And there are some that, that are, relatives, whatever. What I think we need to do is we need to figure out, those same ideas, policy initiatives, how they can be delivered. That's why I think about Bruce Springsteen, is because, he's the embodiment, right, of working class, went to Rutgers, is a guy that understands how to communicate.
He did not go to Rutgers. I went to
where
Rutgers.
was he? So he wasn't at
college.
the same school?
As far as I know, he never went to college. He's from Central Jersey.
Oh, I see.
Shore.
He was the band that your buddy. Okay, now I remember.
Right.
Okay, never mind. Okay. Well, he at the very least understands what we're talking about here, and I think that's why Larry Cohen and I, would love to see him, be a nominee. I got 30 seconds, Harvey. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, I do. Okay. First of all, have a good Labor Day weekend, and I'll hope to maybe see you on Labor Day itself.
I look forward to that. Forward to that. You have a good one, too. Enjoy your weekend.
Thank you.
In the next 10 days. Thank you, man. That is Harvey K. I am Jeff Santos. We're going to come back. We're going from a FDR historian to a baseball historian. Our good friend from someplace and somewhere in Tennessee, unknown, undisclosed location. Kaylin White joins us. After this timeout, you're watching and listening to The Jeff Santos Show.
You don't have to wait for amazing deals on a new floor. Get spring Black Friday deals right now at Lumber Liquidators Flooring. This week, save up to 35% on gorgeous hardwood and waterproof vinyl floors. Plus, we can arrange for installation by professional, independent contractors. And with special financing, you can get started today. These are the floors homes are built on. Lumber Liquidators Flooring.
Haul packages for a living? A gas-powered Mercedes-Benz Sprinter delivers. Transport people? A Sprinter van with 0% financing is a 5-star idea. If food delivery is your thing, then a gas Sprinter caters to you. And if you're a general contractor, the Sprinter with 0% financing nails it. With innovation, safety, and technology, Sprinter is built for you. And it's built for your bottom line with 0% financing. The Mercedes-Benz Sprinter, starting at just $33,790.
Are you living with pain? I was, after a nasty fall. I got relief with 1 hour pain relief. I'm Barry Yarkoni, president, and here's Lisa, a Marine who was injured in Iraq.
After surviving an explosion, I was on horrible painkillers for lingering head, shoulder, back, and knee pain, but I hated the dangers and side effects. My friend told me about 1 hour pain relief, and now I'm off the drugs.
1 hour pain relief is the result of 15 years of research on an amazing extract from hops, the plant used to flavor beer.
Whether your pain is from an injury or just aging, you get safe, all-day relief in less than 1 hour.
We're so sure you'll love 1 hour pain relief too that we'll send you a 1-week trial for just a small shipping charge. Call 800-269-9500 right now. That's 800-269-9500. There's no gimmicks, no obligation, no automatic shipments. Stop living with pain. Call 800-269-9500 for your 1-week trial or visit onehourpainrelief.com. That's 800-269-9500.
A Russian missile strike killed at least 22 people and wounded 50 others at a railway station in central Ukraine as the country marked Independence Day, according to Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky.
Wednesday's attack took place as Ukrainians marked the 31st anniversary of Ukraine's independence from the Soviet Union and the 6-month anniversary of Russia's invasion.
Flooding in Afghanistan this month killed more than 180 people, the Taliban said on Thursday, appealing to the international community for help.
Mujahid said 182 people had been killed by floods this month and 250 injured. More than 3,100 houses had been completely destroyed and thousands of livestock killed. Afghanistan has been reeling from natural disasters this year, including a drought and an earthquake that killed more than 1,000 people in June. The nation has been largely cut off from the international financial system since the Taliban took over a year ago. Davis Richards reporting.
The nuclear power plant in the middle of the fighting in Ukraine was temporarily cut off from the electric grid Thursday because of fire damage, causing a blackout in the region and heightening fears of catastrophe in a country haunted by the Chernobyl disaster.
On Thursday, the plant was cut off from the grid for the first time after fires damaged a transmission line, according to Ukraine's nuclear power operator. The damaged line apparently carried outgoing electricity and thus the region lost power, according to Yevgeny Balitsky, the Russia-installed governor. As a result of the damage, the 2 reactors still in use went offline, he said, but one was quickly restored, as was electricity to the area. Harry Michaels reporting.
Israeli Prime Minister urged the United States and the European Union to scrap their pending nuclear agreement with Iran, calling it a bad deal for the world and a violation of standards set by President Joe Biden.
Israel is not against any agreement. We are against this agreement because it is a bad one, because it cannot be accepted as it is written right now, Lapid told foreign correspondents in Jerusalem. In our eyes, it does not meet the standards set by President Biden himself, preventing Iran from becoming a nuclear state. Roger Cantor reporting.
This is the latest news headlines. A jury awarded Vanessa Bryant $16 million in her invasion of privacy trial against Los Angeles County over photos taken at the scene of a 2020 helicopter crash that killed her husband, basketball star Kobe Bryant, and her 13-year-old daughter. The jury also awarded $15 million to Chris Chester, an Orange County financial advisor, who had sued the county over photos taken of his wife and daughter who were also killed in the same crash. Uvalde school board officials unanimously voted Wednesday to fire Pete Arredondo, the school district's police chief, exactly 3 months after the school shooting that killed 19 students and 2 teachers. The termination is effective immediately. Arredondo was not in attendance at his termination hearing out of concerns over his safety, his attorney George Hyde said in a 17-page statement released shortly before the community gathered Wednesday evening. The Justice Department released a secret memo explaining the legal reasoning behind not charging then-President Donald Trump with obstruction of justice in an investigation into alleged Russian interference in the 2016 election. Mueller's probe, they said, did not establish any underlying crime related to Russian interference and did not make it clear that Trump sought to cover up any wrongdoing. A California state judge said he would likely deny Tesla Incorporated's bid to dismiss a lawsuit by the state's civil rights agency accusing the electric car maker of widespread race discrimination at an assembly plant. California Superior Court Judge Avelio Grillo in Oakland, in a tentative written order, rejected Tesla's claim that the lawsuit would be unmanageable because it involves thousands of employees and that the state civil rights department failed to notify the company of all the claims before it sued in February. And that's the latest news headline.
So you want to go green? How about going green with your greenbacks? Try aspiration.com. Shares your values on the environment and climate change. Ever wonder what the big banks do with your deposits? Well, it goes to fossil fuel companies for sure. Not at aspiration.com. Your deposits will never fund fossil fuel projects like pipelines, oil rigs, and coal mines. With aspiration.com, you get 55,000 free in-network ATMs, 3 to 5% cash back on conscientious coalition purchases, personal impact score to help you shop to match your values, and an option to plant a tree with every roundup. Deposits in your Aspiration Spend and Save account are FDIC insured up to $2.46 million per deposit by being swept to FDIC member institutions. To find out more, you can go to aspiration.com/revolution.
I'm Rich Rosario. 1 in 4 heart attack survivors will have another cardiovascular event. Award-winning author and American Heart Association volunteer Dr. Nisa Goldberg explains the hidden risks.
Many people don't realize that managing hidden risks like untreated high blood pressure, unhealthy eating habits, and poor medication adherence may reduce your risk for having another heart attack.
The American Heart Association's Secondary Heart Attack Prevention Initiative, sponsored by Bayer, reminds you to follow your doctor's recommendations to help reduce your risk factors.
Take your medication as prescribed. Certain medicines like aspirin can lower your risk of another cardiac event. Aspirin is not appropriate for everyone, so be sure to talk to your doctor before you begin an aspirin regimen. It's important to understand your medications and take them correctly. Manage risk factors like high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and diabetes. Quit smoking, eat healthier, and get active.
Learn more ways to thrive after a heart attack at heart.org/oneisenough.
Live from the South Coast here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Friday edition. We're going to be a little baseball, a little music, a little politics, all in this hour, folks. Again, for those of you who are daily listeners and viewers of the Jeff Santos Show, we're going to take some time away next week. We'll be off, returning probably on Labor Day. We'll let you know if there is any issues with that. Technically, whatever may go on the road. Not really sure yet about Labor Day, but we're looking forward to seeing if there are some avenues here to get us on Labor Day, to kick us off on the campaign trail until the November elections. And we're looking forward to that. But we're looking forward to our next hour. The bottom of the hour, we'll talk to our good friend, Mark Taylor Canfield, great musician, the Renaissance man of the Jeff Santos Show. Also, Democracy Watch News. He's the executive director there. But we start this hour with our good friend from an undisclosed location somewhere deep in the heart of Tennessee, is the great baseball historian. He has written some tremendous books, Left on Base in the Bush Leagues here, if we can get it right. If I'm the idiot that can't figure this out. Left on Base in the Bush Leagues is one of them. Singles and Smiles, and a number of other fantastic books, including Bilko. Great to have our good friend for the first time on video. And we are so lucky because, again, when you're at an undisclosed location, it's hard to get video into those caves. It's great to have Galen White with us. Galen, a pleasure. The first time, actually, we've seen each other. So, hello. You look like you're 49, my friend. How are you? Well, we have a little bit of problem. I can see you smiling. You probably made a good joke, but I can't hear it. So hopefully we could get that squared away with Galen's microphone there. Josh, if you can help out, that would be fantastic. Or just put your volume up a little bit, Galen, if you can hear me. But I can't hear you. So hopefully we can fix that momentarily. Yes. No, the video is fine. It's just your audio that we're having some issues with. Hopefully that will work out. Okay. Actually, what I'm being told, Galen, if you can hear me, is that we're going to ask you to reconnect, and I will continue on my introduction of you and some of the work that you've done. And hopefully we can get that reconnected here in the meantime. So hopefully we can do just that. Again, this book here, folks, Left on Base in the Bush Leagues, is a really good perspective of some of the things we're going to talk about today. Because what has happened is that the minor league baseball, and we've had on Larry Cohen and Galen and a few others to talk about this a couple of months ago, is sort of a direction in which Major League Baseball is going. It's used to be that minor league baseball would be supported by local communities in towns like Allentown, PA, the Billy Joel song, of course. In small towns, just recently in Boston, it used to be Pawtucket, Rhode Island, and the Red Sox packed that up, went up to Worcester, the second largest city in Massachusetts. And now Pawtucket is trying to find a sport to recover the 40, 50-year history, I don't know how long, but quite a long time, of playing in an old rickety stadium of McCoy Stadium, where you could go to the game, as I did, for $10 and have a seat just off the baselines. And it's no longer there. And it's a case in point of many, many places. We did an interview with Galen back in 2020 when the pandemic destroyed the minor leagues. In fact, we had talked to somebody, I believe, in Colorado, when the team doesn't even exist anymore. And what they did, which was fascinating in the pandemic, was use the baseball stadium, the big scoreboards in the back of center field, to use as a movie theater. So people would go to like a drive-in and go into the ballpark outfield and watch, with their headphones or whatever the device was, to watch a movie. Sometimes there were sports movies, sometimes they were just general films that were being run. And, all of that seems to have been gone. Yes, there are a handful. There's the Savannah Bananas when we get Galen back up. We'll talk about it. But one of the things that Galen and I were talking about the other day, and he had worked, I believe it was Eastman Kodak, where he was a senior executive, and he saw firsthand how corporate America really destroyed communities, including Rochester, New York, and a lot of other places. All right. I think we have our good friend Galen White back with us. Galen, can you hear me?
I can, Jeff. You?
Hear fantastic. Me? I can hear you and see you clear, crystal clear. That is fantastic.
What I was saying earlier is I've always been told I have a great face for radio.
They've told me too, so we're in that together, my friend. Hey, so great to see you for the first time. We've done numerous phone calls, both on the air and off the air, but this is the first time. So you are a handsome devil, my friend. How are you?
Well, you lie, but I'm doing fine. I'm doing fine. We were talking the other day about the baseball season, and I have to confess that I've become disenchanted with MLB. I am following it, but not as closely as I always did. And one of the reasons are the races. You just take a look at the standings, and you see how far out the Dodgers are out there in the West, and the Yankees have been had a pretty good lead in the East. And there's, I think, the closest pennant race is in the NL East, with the Mets leading the Braves by 2 games. But it's the teams of the bottom feeders that are so far out of it. Why would anybody want to go to a game?
Cincinnati, Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and these are communities that have had difficult times. I mean, yes, there is the Cleveland, maybe because they play in a weak Central Division, but I mean, a lot of these cities that have had difficult times recovering from the economy, from NAFTA trade deals and just sort of bad government, they have ended up in a scenario where they don't have the money. They don't have the TV revenue that the Yankees have, that the Dodgers have, that the Mets have. And, and even though the Red Sox in Chicago are not exactly at the bottom of the barrel with their wealthy billionaires, John Henry and the Ricketts, the fact is that, they could put more money into it and actually put a better product on the field. But they got general managers and others that are kind of clueless, to understanding what makes a good baseball team and not just an analytic BS. I want to start, and I was talking about this when you were getting hooked up, about what you said yesterday to me in terms of what you think of baseball today and how it reminds you of the 1980s and when you were working. You were a Kodak guy, right?
Well, I was at Goodyear when all the takeover madness was going on.
Okay.
And in fact, Goodyear was a target of a raider named Sir James Goldsmith. And in the end, there was a green mill payoff of something like $49 billion, I believe. It was a huge amount. And but it ruined communities.
It did.
It changed forever. The community I was living in at that time, the Akron, Ohio area. I remember Phillips 66 was the target on two different occasions. It changed Bartlesville, where Phillips is located. I mean, across the country, you had these corporate raiders changing the landscape. And at that time, I remember I remember the CEO of Goodyear, who was a very fine man, and we became good friends. He was talking about this Wall Street mentality where they don't give a damn what happens on Main Street. In fact, I remember him making the comment that Main Street could bleed dry, and Wall Street wouldn't give a hoot other than the fact did the stock price go up? So that's what we've got in baseball now is this totally ignoring Main Street, the small towns of America where the minor leagues once entertained us and provided a valuable support to the majors. We've lost touch with Main Street, and now it's being driven by these financial guys in the front offices, being driven by the lawyers and the Wall Street types. If you and I were to be performing like the general managers of the Red Sox and the Cubs, we'd both be fired.
That's right. And I'm hoping that they both do, particularly Bloom here in Boston, who has done nothing but a disaster, doesn't understand the relationship between Mr. Vasquez and his manager, both Puerto Rican background, both are very close, and how he relates to his star player, Bogarts, who they don't want to sign because they're too cheap. It doesn't fit into their Tampa Bay model. But I don't know if you're aware of this, because to me, this is actually closer than you think about the comparison to the 80s and the Sharks compared to the baseball managers of today. I was unaware of this until about a year ago, and I heard an interview about Friedman. Do you know that he was a hedge fund guy? I mean,
no.
he came out of the hedge funds. He got a job with Tampa. He probably told Steinberg, I think is his name, the owner of the Tampa Bay Rays, that he probably could do it for cheaper. And that's how he got the gig, because I don't think he had much baseball background. He may have had a relative that played. Maybe his dad was somewhere, but it wasn't a lot. And I have a feeling that this is what it is. Now, this is a guy Friedman, who hired Bloom. And, of course, Bloom works for John Henry. How did John Henry start? Hedge fund guy. So, I mean, look, not every hedge fund guy is evil, but the fact is that that's the whole idea. It's a cutthroat approach. It's cut money, save it here, buy out there, and that's what we have. And that very much is the case of the 1980s. It's greed is good, and that great Michael Douglas movie of Wall Street. And, and that's unfortunately how we see the game of baseball, Major League Baseball, being played today. I mean, there's so many ways to sort of, take a game that was America's pastime that you write about so eloquently in so many books, and now we got to have a faster pace. Next year they're going to do, a pitching clock, and they're thinking of, challenging the umpires. Umpires have been around forever, and they do a good job, and yet they want to have now challenges. You can have 3 challenges. The guy touches his head. I mean, what happens if the guy has Vaseline on his head? What are they going to do? Yeah, you want a challenge? I just want to scratch your head or have Vaseline, whatever. I mean, to me, it's just sad that we've taken a great sport and we're picking it apart. I mean, I was listening to a local show here, a sports show yesterday, and they had on these 25, 30-year-old hosts, and they were just trying to trash the game. They were taking the good things of Savannah Bananas and, the idea that if you hit a foul ball, you get an out and the player's out. Okay. But the Savannah Bananas are not Major League Baseball. I mean, the folks who run that would never run that, through major leagues. And and the owners of the Savannah Bananas know that. They have their own niche. They're independent league, their own thing. But you're not going to, make the game and turn it into a circus. I mean, again, I know you've written about this. I know you've seen some Savannah Banana games, but what you have now is well, they only do that in 2 hours. The game ends in 2 hours, period. So I'm going to make that because, nobody wants to watch a 2.5, 3-hour game. I'm sorry, people will. Yeah, and the games were shorter in the 70s and 60s. With a lot of reasons, a lot of them were on TV. There's a 4-minute break, in between every inning. I mean, if not longer. So they didn't have
Savannah
that back
Bananas, Yeah, the Savannah Bananas are entertainment. I mean, like the Harlem Globetrotters used to be.
Right, right.
Were you going to change basketball because of the success of the Harlem Globetrotters? No. Enjoy the Savannah Bananas for what they are.
Right.
The reason I like the Bananas is not so much their brand of baseball. It's because they've kept this ballpark they're playing in around. It's a historic ballpark, Grayson Stadium. And when minor league baseball, the franchise there left Savannah to go to Columbia, South Carolina, it abandoned that ballpark, which I wanted to see restored, and because it's got such a great history. So the Bananas going in there and doing what they're doing has filled that ballpark up again. That's why I applaud the Savannah Bananas. Now, in terms of entertainment, that's great. There's nothing wrong with the game. And I had an old coach, Harry Dunlop, who logged a number of years in the major leagues as a coach. A lot of them with Jack McKeon, who managed a number of different places. But I remember Harry, I was talking about the game, and I probably was saying a couple of negative things. And Harry stopped me. He said, Galen, there's nothing wrong with the game. The problem, and all these guys who are trying to change baseball, the problem is if they looked in the mirror, they'd see the problem. Them.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
That's the problem. There's nothing wrong with the game. Quit fooling around with it. Do something instead, like with the trade deadlines. Make them a little more restrictive. Don't allow a team to unload their talent, as the Cubs did. My formerly beloved Cubs. Yeah, last year. And what so many teams are doing now, they unload their star players. Look at Washington and this young player they had, this
Juan Soto.
Juan Soto. They unload him to San Diego. This is hurting the game more than anything else. It's hurting their brand. It's hurting the competition. Don't worry about the little things on the field, the clock. In fact, to me, one of the charming things about baseball is that there is no clock.
Right. Remember the Carlin, difference between baseball and football and the quaintness of it. You'd say in baseball, you play in a park. In football, you play in a stadium. In baseball, the object of the game is to come home, safe at home. Then he would talk about in football, you gotta grind down the field. The field general, known as the quarterback, goes in and throws on a line of scrimmage in the military fashion, throws it into the end zone for a touchdown, and there's a score, and fireworks go off. If you think about it, that's the distinction, and it's true. I like football as well as most people do, but it's a violent game. it's violent on every snap of the ball. I mean, they don't focus. They focus on the quarterback and the wide receivers. But if you were to put a camera, on the waist of the offensive lineman and the defensive lineman, you're not going to get a lot of viewers because they're going to be, I don't really want to see this guy getting punched in the stomach and a few other places that are private parts and all that, because that's what goes on the line of scrimmage, right? You got to protect the quarterback, protect the house and so forth. So it's a whole different kind of game than baseball, which can be played by somebody who's 5'6", and 160 pounds. Dustin Pedroia comes to mind with the Red Sox, and somebody who, I guess this guy Cruz, who's 6'7", or Aaron Judge, with the Yankees, who could be on an NBA power forward. So, that's
this
the
is the thing
uniqueness of it.
this is the thing about baseball. You don't have to be a physical freak to play
Right.
it as you do some of these other sports. And the other thing that I like about it is while you have the team aspect, you have this one-on-one, the pitcher versus the the hitter, and then you have all these other factors that come into play. Now, when do they come in play? You don't know. You don't know when the ball is going to be hit the deep center or when it's going to be hit down the foul line. You don't know what's going to happen at any particular point, and so it kind of creates this. It's almost a show within a show, and I enjoy the pitching matchups. Now, there's a lot of things they've done in the area of pitching I don't like. I don't like these.
Why do we have to have these
guys coming
bullpen
up the
games?
Yeah. I think, in fact, there are certain things that can be done. For example, maybe restrict your size of your pitching staff. Start to limit some the trade deadlines so that teams can't unload, can't totally redo their team during the season. I mean, look at the fans. You buy a season ticket, for example, and I've never been a season ticket holder, but let's say you buy a season ticket to see the Red Sox. And then halfway through the season, they unload the Stars. You're still paying what you did earlier in the year when it had all those players on there. You've changed the brand, and now you're charging me the same price. That is unfair, in my view, to fans. And so I think you need to start thinking more about the fans, the real fans, not the people who are just jump in here every now and then and want to totally revamp the game. The people who have been loyal to it, and in turn, the game, of course, has given us tremendous amount of history and entertainment and bonding. I mean, baseball is unlike a lot of other sports. I would dare say that baseball has helped more fathers and sons bond than anything. And when I go to a baseball game, I'm reminded of the games that I went to with my father and my brother. And I know so many people like that. Baseball does that to people. So those are the things we need to remember and cherish and get back to the basics.
I couldn't agree with you more. Talking with Galen White, baseball historian, author of many great books, including Left on Base in the Bush Leagues, Singles and Smiles. Of course, that's the great story of Artie Wilson. I look at this and I think that we got a situation here where so many people don't understand about what you have covered in minor league baseball, and there it is there. And I was talking again when you were off that we have destroyed these small communities in America. With its America in recent years, with bad trade deals going back to corporations again, move out of the Ohio's and the Michigans and the Middle West and then go to Central America or South America, then eventually to the Near East or the Far East, and they take the jobs, and these communities are left behind. I mentioned the Pawtucket Red Sox for years; they're gone because of a dispute, between the owners of the Red Sox, or Lucchino, which did some great work as a stadium designer, to put different ballparks around the country in Baltimore, San Diego, et cetera. And political people that didn't know anything about baseball, and they ended up in Worcester, and people of Pawtucket a tough community that has had its own problems in Rhode Island, was without a baseball team. They're without that fabric that people would go to Pawtucket just to see the minor league AAA team of the Red Sox. That to me is sad. Galen, your thoughts?
Well, and I think one of the issues that baseball has to resolve is they've lost connections with their grassroots. They no longer really have a grassroots, and they're kind of going down the road of what basketball and football has in terms of getting their players out of colleges. And I believe that the colleges, in terms of baseball, are a poor substitute for the minor league.
Yeah, you're not going to get the same characters, that you've written about and we've talked about on the show in previous segments. Hey, man, we got to do this again. And now that I know where we can find you in undisclosed locations, Galen, we're going to do this again. Thank you, man. So great to see you. And look forward to our next segment. Thank you, man. Have a great weekend.
Okay, have a good Labor Day.
You too. We'll be right back, folks. We're going to talk to our good Renaissance man, Mark Taylor Canfield, after this timeout. You are tuned in to the Jeff Santos Show. Facebook, Twitter, Revolution Radio Network. Many more coming up. We'll be right back.
The Jeff Santos Show is brought to you by Mass Peace Action. With over 9,000 supporters in the state, MPA uses the power of grassroots organizing to end war, create a more just foreign policy, and cut wasteful Pentagon spending to support the needs of the American people, like healthcare, education, infrastructure, and the environment. 20 years of war is long enough. To become a member or learn more, visit masspeaceaction.org. Don't wish for peace, work for it.
You don't have to wait for amazing deals on a new floor. Get spring Black Friday deals right now at Lumber Liquidators Flooring. This week, save up to 35% on gorgeous hardwood and waterproof vinyl floors. Plus, we can arrange for installation by professional, independent contractors. And with special financing, you can get started today. These are the floors homes are built on. Lumber Liquidators Flooring.
Are you living with pain? I was, after a nasty fall. I got relief with 1 hour pain relief. I'm Barry Yarconi, president, and here's Lisa, a Marine who was injured in Iraq.
After surviving an explosion, I was on horrible painkillers for lingering head, shoulder, back, and knee pain. But I hated the dangers and side effects. My friend told me about 1 hour pain relief, and now I'm off the drugs.
1 hour pain relief is the result of 15 years of research on an amazing extract from hops, the plant used to flavor beer.
Whether your pain is from an injury or just aging, you get safe, all-day relief in less than 1 hour.
We're so sure you'll love 1 hour pain relief too that we'll send you a 1-week trial for just a small shipping charge. Call 800-269-9500 right now. That's 800-269-9500. There's no gimmicks, no obligation, no automatic shipments. Stop living with pain. Call 800-269-9500 for your 1-week trial or visit onehourpainrelief.com. That's 800-269-9500.
Hi, I'm Karen, owner of Lone Star Transfer. If you are a timeshare owner, getting out is probably a top priority. And now that annual maintenance fees are coming due, this ongoing burden and expense is at the top of your list. Thankfully, we can help. Let us do for you what we have done for thousands of others across the country. Our process is done legally, ethically, and quickly. Lone Star Transfer has a 99% success rate and an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. We are a family-owned business and will personally make sure your experience is a pleasant one. Don't let another day go by with maintenance fees taking your hard-earned money. Give us a call for a no-obligation consultation at 844-284-4863. That's 844-284-4863. Or online at LoneStarTransfer.com. That's LoneStarTransfer.com.
Supporting the middle class. This is the Jeff Santos Show.
$33 past the hour. It is the Jeff Santos Show that you are tuned into. Coming to you live from the South Coast here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. We're going to be wrapping up a week. Going to have a week off, folks, and we're going to be talking with our Renaissance man. Nobody better to finalize the week, to get us into a good mood going into the week off that we're going to have next week and right into Labor Day weekend. Nobody better than our good friend, Mr. Mark Taylor Canfield, the executive director of Democracy Watch News, the great musician. Check him out on YouTube. And, of course, regular here every Friday, right here on the Jeff Santos Show. MTC live from the 206. Mr. Mark, I see black. Okay, Mark, you got to turn that video button, man, on. The only thing I can see is a black screen. So hopefully, mysteriously, you will come live to us from the 206. So, Mark, if you can hear me, we're looking at a black screen. So let's go ahead and hopefully get you to turn on your side there because we don't see anything. Can you hear me anyways, Mark? Okay, apparently not. Well, we're going to try to see if we can get our good friend MTC. Folks, again, just again a little bit of housekeeping. We are hoping to be back on Labor Day weekend. We're gonna Labor Day itself on that Monday, and my hope here is that we can bring together a number of folks, some who are relatively new to the show. We've been playing the soundbite of Sean O'Brien of the Teamsters. He's one of the candidates for that Labor Day show, as is, of course, Mr. John Shelton, the AFT side, and people, who are in unions but represent progressive organizations too, like Melissa Tomlinson of Badass Teachers. So there's a number of different folks that we want to sort of kind of bring together, and not only the meaning of Labor Day, but how important it is for labor and the Democratic Party and progressives, civil rights leaders to kind of connect. So we're going to hope to put something together, and if we don't do it all on that Monday, we'll do it throughout the week, Monday through Friday. Josh, do we have any resolution with our good friend MTC finding either an audio or video line to us? Okay, fine. All right. Josh, our great producer back there in Boca Raton, Florida, telling me that we may have to wait a couple of minutes. I would like to go to John in Minnesota if we can, Josh, if he is there. That would be fantastic. Or I don't know who we have again. All right, John in Minnesota. How are you, my man?
Oh, I'm fine. I'm still good.
Well, it is good. It is good. Well, we're gonna talk to our friend MTC momentarily here. Hopefully, he gets his video components taken care of. But I wanted to ask you before we end this show today.
Yeah.
Because again, we'll be off next week. One of the things that I think that you understand, and we all understand, we want more, obviously, from the president. We want more from the Democratic Party. But I wanted to get your thoughts. I mean, do you think that the fact that we ended up getting Manchin to sign off on the stupidly named IRA bill that should have been Build Back Better, but he wanted the word inflation in the damn thing. And then, of course, yesterday you get all this pushback from the likes of the Clintonista crowd, the Summers, and of course we heard the comment that both Stephen and Harvey were talking about, with the idea that it's going to hurt people. This idea of giving people student loans. But there is movement. The idea that Sanders and O'Brien and Nelson are all together, that's a positive sign. There are things that Biden is actually doing because progressives have started the fire, lit the match, Bernie in 15, 16, behind me. I'm just wondering how you have felt about this week. You're a heart and soul of the show and understand, you would like to see more. But how do you feel about this going into Labor Day?
Well, I think that it's a good move, but it's just a first start. Really, most of the debt should be forgiven. And also, on the other end, they shouldn't be charging such high prices for public education.
Right.
The fees, and that's the way it was meant, even at the university level. Well, at the university level, because of course we don't pay for, kindergarten through 12, but at the university level, the tuition was just a nominal part of what paid for education, and that was true all through the 1970s when I went to school. And as I said, I owed a few $1,000s, and I actually, the only reason I owed anything was because I went to a private school for a while, and I only owed, I paid it off within about maybe 14, 16 months after, I started working in the field as a respiratory therapist. And the interest was 3% or 3%. That's what I paid interest on that loan. And this is just, part and parcel of neoliberalism, is to monetize things, make people pay. It's like a rent, they call it rentier economy, make people pay through the nose for everything. Yep. They don't really believe in a free enterprise system. They believe that the enterprise system should be owned by a few people, so that everything is, they just charge you until you're dead. I know that sounds very bleak, but that's the bleak.
No, it is. We've allowed this.
It's just terrible,
John. We've allowed this to go on over the last 50 years. Think about Trump. Yes. Think about the Bushes. Think about Reagan. Think about Clinton.
Yeah.
Sell out. And this is what has happened.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
To a lesser extent, Obama. But that's where we've been.
Right, and Clinton. They thought that they found the holy grail with neoliberalism. Yeah. I remember the whole take on it. Ronald Reagan. We're going to all be rich. Well, it didn't happen. 50 years. Yeah, 50 years. And this is where we're at. The most divided, unequal society, one of the most in the industrialized world. And we've created a global system, as Harvey said. In Britain, where they used to fund education and gave grants, they picked up on the same model. Fortunately, that is not the case throughout the entire world. And if you go north of here, which I used to tell people when they complained about tuition or how much they paid, I said, why don't you go ahead and be a nurse in Canada? They'd love to have you. Yeah. They needed nurses, and the pay was good.
You get and the nurses have free health care.
And then and then you could go to school. They would pay for your schooling, and you could go to school much cheaper. It was much, much cheaper, and it still is. Although this model, some of the conservatives in the Canadian government want to adopt, but it's not going over really big. Why? Because
it isn't.
The public don't want it. They just
let me tell you, we got a good friend of ours that and we're going to keep you on, but bring in a guy who goes not too far from Seattle, is British Columbia in Canada. He knows it well, and he knows the whole issue of the student loan issue. Our good friend Mark Taylor Canfield joins us. MTC, we found you, my friend. How are you? I tell you, man, you are the best. With your own intro, nobody else could do it.
At an undisclosed location somewhere near the Space Needle, surrounded by guitars. I want to thank everybody that showed up at the Nectar. I just did a performance at the Nectar, and those people are amazing. It's one of the best places in Seattle to go. All the great musicians around town show up, and they go there to support a local feature band. But then there's all this jamming that goes on afterwards, where bands get up on stage and they play with each other. Maybe members of bands who have never played with other members of the other bands, and people they call people up from the audience and say, hey, come up here, Mark, and play electric guitar, do a song for us. And it's great. We've had Eva Walker there from the Black Tones. We've had Aaron Jones I believe, who's opening for the Rolling Stones on their world tours.
Nice.
And so thank you for everybody that showed up there. That's what makes Seattle so beautiful and why I love it so much. And I'm just
we got to get out there and
profoundly
see you, man.
thankful. So you can check out that video actually at YouTube. I'm going to put it up. But I wanted to let you know, Jeff, I am wearing a tie. So this is not a casual Friday for me. This is actually like we were doing a music video, so I had to wear a black tie, so it's kind of hard to see, but I am dressed up.
Well, and we can see you. Last week you had on sunglasses, so we didn't get a chance to see your, the evil eye.
Amazing guitar.
What's that? That's a much smaller guitar.
This is a one-of-a-kind guitar that I had to buy from somebody online who had it, and it's, as you can see through it. It's acrylic, and you can actually like put lights on it, and then it'll flash and play.
Wow!
But it's tiny. It's like comparison.
Very tiny. I was going to say that's like for like a third grader or something.
Strat size that I was playing, right? And look at the size of this. So
talk about mini me.
Like, it's tiny, but the head on it up here is about the same size as a regular electric guitar, so it doesn't feel strange necessarily when you play it. It just has a very small body, and it's very super light. So for people who don't want to get that huge overdeveloped muscle that people like Keith Richards with the Rolling Stones has for carrying that electric guitar around his whole life, you can get something like this, which is really, well, actually, you probably can't find this now because they probably are not available. But
how much?
This is my mini guitar. Well, something like this. I have no idea because there's like none out there on the market. So you can't really buy them. It's a collector's item. It's like, I could set a price, but it would not be a retail price. And that's because I had to do a bunch of research online to even find that this existed. And it's made by Harmony, which has actually been around since like 1895. So it's not like some brand new strange thing, knockoff guitar or something. And it actually plays. I took it to my friend Ernie's New Year's Eve party or Christmas party, and I played it through his really nice Fender amp, and it sounded great, for this tiny little guitar. So I particularly don't like heavy guitars when I'm on stage. I like to be able to jump around and move.
If you don't want to jump around, you don't want to kill yourself in the process. Hey, we're talking with MTC here on the Jeff Santos Show, and we'll get back, even though we're running out of time already. But hey, I wanted to ask you because this has been an issue all day, and I know you wanted to get your thoughts in about the student loan situation. And and yesterday or 2 days ago, Biden going ahead and basically forgiving 10,000 student loan and 20,000 with Pell Grants. There have been a lot of discussions. We've heard the Clinton crowd, predominantly people like Larry Summers, their former economic czar and so forth, saying, this is going to create inflation and, it's just awful. And, why are we doing this? And, and then others are saying that, what about the people who, 40 years ago paid back their loans and why can't they get help? And I'm like, he's done the right thing, and I've been critical of President Biden, through the year and a half that he's been president and so forth. But look, he's at least done what Bernie Sanders and many people we have on the show, like Alex Lawson and others, of Social Security Works, have been fighting for. And it wasn't everything. It wasn't, opening the door to forgiveness of all loans. Yes, it wasn't the idea that he had talked about in the campaign, Biden did, of free community college. So we're not there yet, but we're started the fire, and, and maybe we can build on it. So I don't want to see, people who I respect and really like, whether they're callers or guests of the show, trashing Biden, because frankly, a lot of our progressive friends, including your Congresswoman, Jayapal, did a lot of great work in getting, at the very least, the start of this. Nowhere near finish. And I think the pressure has to continue on. We got to continue to put the pressure on Biden and continue to protect Ron Klain, who's surrounded by Clintonista crowds, off the Sandinista of the 1980s, and this is where we got to really keep, again, protecting somebody like Klain. It was just on MSNBC about half an hour ago, from all of these corporate Democrats that, want no part of a Jayapal, no part of a Sawant. They say she's a heretic, I mean, and that's where we need to move this agenda. Your thoughts on all of this?
Well, I thought that there was a pretty concerted, if not completely organized, but concerted effort on Twitter and other social networking platforms, and a lot of rallies around the country, including in your part of the world, where people were getting together and talking about this issue as the student debt crisis, and that was the hashtag. So we're not talking about something that just happened yesterday or hasn't been a big drag on the economy for many years. I know a woman, a very good friend of mine from childhood. His wife is a public school teacher in Washington State. She just paid off her student loan at the age of 60 years old as a public school teacher. So there's sort of something wrong with that picture. We should be rewarding our educators as well as students who take the time to study and do the work that it takes to get a degree, whether it's a graduate degree or a bachelor's degree. So as executive director at Democracy Watch News, it's very important that I approach this from a pro-democracy point of view, which is that if you don't have an educated population, and Thomas Jefferson talked about this, but if nothing else, and we talked about this on the Tom Hartman show earlier today, if nothing else, the recent misinformation that's run rampant that caused things like the January 6th uprising and the misinformation out there about the election, if that's any indication at all, then we really seriously as a culture need to value education, make sure that people are educated, that they're informed voters, and they know what they're talking about, because without it, you see the results. And so I stand for cancellation of all debts, along with Joe Sandberg and Ro Khanna, another Congress person. My representative and friend from Village Jayapal has been saying this for a long time. We need free college education. Now, I'm not asking people to eliminate their private universities and technical colleges or whatever. I'm just saying that the state-run colleges should be funded. And, they ask me, well, where's the money going to come from? I say, how about, like one major defense budget project? Yeah. There's a lot of money that's out there. It's going to different.
We have spent 60%, Mark, 60% of non-discretionary dollars in our budget every year on the military.
And I'm not saying eliminate the military or anything like that. I'm just saying, one major billion-dollar.
Why do we have to have bake sales for educators? Really? Why are our teachers today, taking out of their own pocketbooks and wallets money for the kids?
Yeah, if we're going to spend all that defense money to protect our interests around the world, well, what are those interests? What are the things that we're trying to protect? And one of those is freedom of education. And I do believe that it should be part of sort of an economic and educational, vocational Bill of Rights, add it to Harvey K. and Ellen Minsky's Bill of Rights. I think these things are all important. Raising the minimum wage is so important. If you want to eliminate some of the mass homelessness that we see, especially in places like Oakland, California, and other cities, then, let's stop the raids on the mortgage raids on people's income. Let's stop the rents going through the roof. Let's get some rent control. Let's have some reasonable rent control. Let's have some reasonable affordable housing in this country. In Washington State, we have I-135, which has been just was endorsed by my district Democratic Party, the 43rd district, and they are calling for, and this is through Frank Chop, through the state legislature, are calling for funding for social housing. They just want to have permanent housing for people. You can't jack up the rents, that there are limitations on, what you can charge people so that they have economic security for the rest of their lives, so they don't have to worry about living in a high-rise in Seattle for 30 years, retiring, and then finding out that they're doubling the rent, and so you have to move. Just crazy things like that. So I think free education and canceling student debt could really help the younger generation. And if the Democrats or any other party wants to reach out to the younger generation, hit them with a Green New Deal and climate action and free college education and cancellation of student debts. And you have a lot of voters that are going to support you right there.
Oh, yeah. No, if you get 29% of a poll, maybe it's up to 40 now or 35 anyways, for Biden, but 29% was the number of people who approve of Joe Biden, aged 18 to 34. You cannot win the hearts and minds of people with that number. So are you doing more? You passed in the environmental parts of the IRA, and now you passed this the student loan, but it's limited. And if you don't come out and say, hey, we hear you. I've always said he has a granddaughter who's an educator, a teacher. Bring her out. let her know that, let Biden should be telling people, look at my granddaughter. I don't want to leave her a black planet. I'm not talking about color of skin. I'm talking about, what it would look like. I don't want to leave, a disaster where you can't breathe the air and drink the water. And, the example is my granddaughter right here, whenever she's 25, 30 years old, whatever the case may be. And that's what you need. And, I'm hoping our friends, Mr. Clean and others, who I give a lot of respect for hanging in there, because frankly, it's a lot of incoming, particularly Mark. I mean, you're in a small studio, so am I. I mean, if you can imagine, somebody like Bruce Reed, who's the antithesis politically of Ron Klain, a Clinton guy, wants to cut anti-union, he's next door. I mean, you knock on the side of the wall, to where Mr. Klain is. It's the deputy chief of staff, I should say, is Reed. I mean, talk about, being surrounded by wolves, So that's why I give Biden and those guys credit. Hey, I want to bring in. Go ahead, Mark.
I was just going to say quickly, a good example of how things can change is that Formula E racing, most of the new Generation 3 cars that are coming out for next year are made of recycled material. They're all very eco-friendly. They use electric motors. There's absolutely no carbon emissions at all. So that's, and the racing industry through the FIA have actually committed to eliminating all carbon footprint by 2030. So they're trying to figure out a way of actually recycling the old cars into new cars so that they don't even have to use new material. So kudos to them for doing that. And also,
I'm glad that you can have that kind of industry, which, again, it may not be stock cars. It may be not as aimed at sort of, the Bubbas of the world of the South, but it's still, a working class approach. And that's a good way to communicate that message. We were talking earlier about, the head of the Teamsters, Sean O'Brien, talking to some of his fellow union members on our program, and and talking about weightlifting and so forth, and the size of the biceps and all that. And to me, this is sort of where we need to go. We need to start communicating that message. Hey, I want to bring in our good friend John from Minneapolis. Go ahead, Mark.
Congratulations to Stoffel Van Dorn, who just won the F1, the Formula One World Championship. So my hero,
good for
Fernando
him.
Alfonso Van Dorn is an amazing driver.
Excellent. John in Minnesota, do you have a quick comment for our good friend Mark before we rock and roll?
No, I'm just envious. I bet it's nice and cool. What's the temperature there in Seattle? And is it rainy, sunny? I'm just curious.
It's been cloudy all day.
Man, MTC. Go ahead,
it's been cloudy all day. Just
Yeah.
now starting to come out a little bit, and for just the way the weather's been recently, when the sun goes down, it cools down, and it's really pleasant and nice.
There you go.
I
would like that very much.
Oh wait, don't tell anybody
it's
that.
Hot here, I think. Yeah.
Wait, I wasn't
It's kind of
supposed to
hot
tell you
here,
that.
and
It rains
and
all the
actually,
time here. It's
I don't
terrible,
really
folks.
like the sun that much.
Don't move
The sun, it's too bright. I kind of like
I
cloudy
know,
days.
too bright.
Actually.
Yeah, you got to get back to New
Yeah,
York, my friend. Hey, Mark. John. Thank you, Mark. We got to run as well, my man. Yeah, you enjoy your weekend. You playing any gigs this weekend?
No, I'm in the studio, but check out Democracy Watch News, where we're covering pro-democracy movements around the world, and we have a Democracy Cast podcast and also live Twitter Spaces events, so you can follow us there. And also you can check out my music at YouTube. So subscribe.
Fantastic,
and love you, everybody.
MTC. Thank you, my man. Hey, folks, I want to thank all of our guests. I want to thank Josh and Freddie producing this broadcast. Keep on fighting. We'll be back on Labor Day or the day after. Until then, my name is Jeff Santos. Right now, my time to say I gotta go.
packages for a living? A gas-powered Mercedes-Benz Sprinter delivers. Transport people? A Sprinter van with 0% financing is a 5-star idea. If food delivery is your thing, then a gas Sprinter caters to you. And if you're a general contractor, the Sprinter with 0% financing nails it. With innovation, safety, and technology, Sprinter is built for you. And it's built for your bottom line with 0% financing. The Mercedes-Benz Sprinter, starting at just $33,790.
You don't have to wait for amazing deals on a new floor. Get spring Black Friday deals right now at Lumber Liquidators Flooring. This week, save up to 35% on gorgeous hardwood and waterproof vinyl floors. Plus, we can arrange for installation by professional, independent contractors. And with special financing, you can get started today. These are the floors homes are built on. Lumber Liquidators Flooring.
Are you living with pain? I was, after a nasty fall. I got relief with 1 hour pain relief. I'm Barry Yarconi, president, and here's Lisa, a Marine who was injured in Iraq.
After surviving an explosion, I was on horrible painkillers for lingering head, shoulder, back, and knee pain, but I hated the dangers and side effects. My friend told me about 1 hour pain relief, and now I'm off the drugs.
1 hour pain relief is the result of 15 years of research on an amazing extract from hops, the plant used to flavor beer.
Whether your pain is from an injury or just aging, you get safe, all-day relief in less than 1 hour.
We're so sure you'll love 1 hour pain relief too that we'll send you a 1-week trial for just a small shipping charge. Call 800-269-9500 right now. That's 800-269-9500. There's no gimmicks, no obligation, no automatic shipments. Stop living with pain. Call 800-269-9500 for your 1-week trial or visit onehourpainrelief.com. That's 800-269-9500.